Horror 5-game losing streak when they host the Adelaide Crows in a rare home game from Docklands in Melbourne. The Hawks will be bolstered by the return of captain Ben Mcavoy, having lost 9 of their last 10 games, while the Crows, who sit just a game above the Hawks, have won 2 of their last 4 and could leapfrog the Giants up to 13th position to close out round 17 of the AFL. It's Hawthorn and Adelaide under the roof of Docklands on Sunday afternoon footy. Hello, welcome everyone to ABC Sports coverage of the 2022 season. Matt Clinch with you for Grandstand AFL. There's no late changes in this match with Liam Shields and Ben Davis, the respective subs for their sides. It's also half-time from the Gabba, where the Bombers lead by 16 points. So Cole Langford with 3 goals, the Bombers with 5 goals to 2 in the second quarter to lead 7-6-48 to the Brisbane Lions 4-8-32. Thanks very much to the Sunday Footy Forum with Clint Wheeldon, Mark Duffield and Jake Knoll. Great to hear so many of your contributions throughout the afternoon. You can continue to do so on 0437 774 774 if you want to pose a question or a comment on the rest of the weekend's footy. Joel Peterson to call the action alongside me. Joel, great to see you again.
Good to be with you, Clinchy. We've got a little bit to live up to after yesterday's footy, don't we? A couple of cracking games across the course of the afternoon. Of course, we were at the MCG for Collingwood and North, and then that rolled into the after-siren and thriller between Richmond and the Gold Coast, and then Freo made a bit of a statement here at Docklands last night. And this game today is interesting because these two sides, I mean, they're pretty similar. You can look at really arbitrary measures, I guess. You know, Hawthorn are 4-11, Adelaide 5-10. They're 14th the Crows, 15th the Hawks. Percentage basically the same. 0.4% between them. The Hawks score 4 points more. The Crows concede 4 points less. Adelaide's strength in the midfield, the Hawks at either end with some of their key position players, and you can conjure all that up into a pretty complicated picture of the game. But they played two sides last year, and the team that won scored 102 points. So basically, it's just kick 102 points and you'll win. That's the simple equation today.
I know Brett Delidio, our 2 number 1 draft picks on a Sunday afternoon, are here and ready to go. He's excited to watch some fast footy under the roof of Docklands. Lids, welcome to you.
Hello, Clinchy and Joel. Good to be here again on a Sunday afternoon. They're the bottom end of the table, these two teams, but I'm just keen to see what we're going to see in the years to come, and that's what I think is what brings most of the fans along today, is to say, well, what can we hang our hat on for the end of this year, and see where we finish and where we're building to. So I've been in some teams along the journey that this time of year, you're done for finals, but can you what are you starting to build on for next year and get excited about? So I think that is what we're looking forward to today.
Conversations internally around footy trips. Externally, we're trying to look for what things the teams can try and build on for season 2023. Mark Murphy, welcome to you. Great to see you.
Good to see you, Clinchy. Yes, footy trip talk. You reckon by this stage of the season?
About it's 6 weeks to go. That'd be about right, wouldn't it?
Well, yeah, possibly. I'm not sure. I was never part of that, Leeds, back in the day. you know me, mate. I was always just footy focused.
Yeah, I bet you were.
But looking forward to seeing hopefully a fast-paced game. Obviously, when you're playing here at Marvel as well, it usually lends itself to that factor. But Adelaide are very good at pressuring and tackling. So it'll be interesting to see how they go up against the Hawks today. So they're number 18 in kicking efficiency, the Crows. So they should get a good look, the Hawks, today. So, but under the roof, and although it's a beautiful day outside, unfortunately it feels like it's night time at the moment. But looking forward to watching today's game.
A goal for Darcy Fort for the Brisbane Lions. So they're 5-8-38, closing the gap with the Bombers 7-7-49. Rory Sloane, the captain of the Crows, will join us in the lead up to the match, as will defender Sam Frost, who is unfortunately out for the Hawks at the moment. So the mindset, obviously, of two sides who are out of finals calculation, you're trying to build something, but I guess you're also trying to, show your best foot forward individually. So how challenging can that be for a coach to try and collectively unite the group to stay focused on the task at hand?
Yeah, it is, and usually the coaches send a little bit of a challenge to players individually on the last 6 or 7 games of the season when you're not going to play finals. There's always something for players to improve upon, and it's also about setting the scene for pre-season and going into next season. So obviously Sam Mitchell, first-year coach, obviously the Hawthorn players are all still looking to impress. Nick's on the other hand they're still in a rebuilding phase, aren't they? So be interesting to see how Matty Crouch goes today. He's found himself on the out. He's obviously an All-Australian and best and fairest player, so he's no doubt coming into today looking to put his hand up, and hopefully if he wants to stay at the club long term, then I suppose he's got 6 weeks to put his best foot forward, doesn't he?
Oh, it's a beautiful segue, Murph. Let's head down into the Crows camp. Jess Webster's the final member of our team. Jess, welcome to you.
Thanks, Clinchy. I'm here with Rory Sloane. Thanks so much for your time pre-game. We were all devastated when you did your ACL earlier in the year. So firstly, how are you? How's the knee? And is everything tracking along okay to this point?
I appreciate your thoughts, Jess. No, it's tracking along really well at the moment. I think someone mentioned week 11, and it feels, I don't know, it doesn't feel like I'm rehabbing a knee at the moment. I just feel like I'm getting super fit and healthy. So plenty of work in the gym, which I've never spent so much time in the gym before in my life, but it's nice to be able to put on some size for once, because I've never put on any size across the chest for about, the 14 years I've been at the club.
We wish you all the best in your recovery. Turning our attention to the game, the boys, they pushed Melbourne last week. How much confidence did that give the playing group?
Yeah, with 10 minutes to go, we were within 5 points and playing some great footy. It was sort of feeling a little bit like the year before, but we couldn't quite get it done. But that, for some of our young midfielders, Sam Berry, Harry Schoenberg, those guys take a lot of confidence out of it. They can match it with some really solid, experienced midfielders, and that's what we just want to keep building, is these kids have the confidence and know that they can take on a couple of the best. Sam Berry just dropped out. Sorry. You look at Sam Berry, he looks like about a 10-year player, the way his body is.
Rory Sloane with us on Grandstand AFL. Let's head upstairs to the box to our experts, Mark Murphy and Brett Deledio.
Sloaney, it's Leeds. You spoke about getting some experience into those young guys, and one I'm interested in is young Zachy Taylor, one of your boys drafted last year. How's his progress, and do you think we'll see him before the end of the year?
I hope so. Do you know him?
I do know Zachy, yes.
Yeah, he's a ripping kid. He came in, he pretty raw early on, but he's put his head down, and you speak to him, probably the best thing that happened for him. He actually he broke his thumb early on, which gave him a little stint in rehab to get really fit and healthy. And he put on a bit of size, dropped a bit of puppy fat, and he's playing some great footy in our sample actually. And he just cracks in. So I hope he does get a little look at some point, because I think his hands and his pressure on opposition are pretty elite.
Is that what gets you excited to keep coming back to the club every single day, mate? You're obviously battling away in the rehab group, and is it the progress of these young boys and what you can see potentially going the years forward that gets you excited?
Yeah, absolutely. I want to make sure I get fit and in the best nick of my career by the time round 1 comes next year. But yeah, absolutely. I see the progression we're making at the moment, and I certainly want to be part of that for the years to come, and just help drive these young kids. It's exciting. I love Sam Berry. I've had a heap to do with him over the last couple of years, and I love playing footy with these kids. So I'll try and hang on for as long as I can, but that means get fit and healthy now. So I'm just trying to enjoy as I said before, just enjoy the rehab.
And someone that you could potentially show these young kids an example to lead is Ben Keys. I'm super impressed as an outsider watching him. He just looks like one of the most intense units. I was watching he's doing his warm-up before. He's out here before anyone else, absolutely pumping along the wings. Mate, give us a bit of an insight into what he's like.
Well, Keezy came in and just put his head down and worked his butt off just to get where he has now. And that's how he plays his footy. He honestly just gets everything out of the gym. It's a great lesson for some of our young kids. It's absolutely every training session we do, he just maximises everything. He's a warrior. He plays injured most of the time and just battles on through. So he's an absolute Spartan. That's why he's starting to get the credit I think that he deserves, because he's just put the work in over the last couple of years.
Sloaney, Murphy, I've never heard the word Spartan in relation to a footballer before, but that's taken my notice. Anyway, I wanted to ask you about Matthew Crouch. He's back in today. Where do you see him on the back half this year? Is he going to be around the football club next year? Are you wanting him to be part of the rebuild, and where do you see his football at the moment?
Yeah, he went back and he just did exactly what we asked of him, really. Just go back, perform and tear it up at a sample level, and he's far too good for that level. I don't know if you saw much of his stuff last week, but his contest work was well and truly above sample level. We know that's elite here too, so I see him playing that sort of general role for us, that sort of the general through the midfield, just really, really chatty. He's got that experience, so we need that experience out there. And Matty just wants to play some good footy. Some things people forget, he spent a lot of time in rehab the last year and a half, so he's still finding his feet. back at the level, and I'm just glad he's back in.
Has it been a defensive mindset sort of thing that Matthew Nicks wanted to see from him?
Yeah, there's a bit of that stuff. But really, it's just we're encouraging Matt just to make sure he brings his contest work, his pressure, and just that burst out of stoppage that when he's at his best, he'll certainly do. So, I'm excited to watch him today because he's in some ripping form, and I reckon he'll show us how he plays some solid footy.
Now, I'm sure you've got a couple of years left, but do you see yourself getting into the coaching ranks down the track?
I'm not sure yet. I've really enjoyed a little stint on the bench. That sort of still makes me feel a part of the game. Whereas when you're injured and you're up in the stands or in the coach's box, you feel helpless. So being on the bench, I still feel I've had that connection. Coaching, I'm not sure if I want to sink my teeth into that. I'll probably rather coach my little kids. I reckon going down the track, some junior footy or something, and have my weekends.
Well, you sound too normal to be a coach anyway, so probably a smart move.
Rory Sloane's with us on Grandstand AFL. Rory, Joel Peterson here. A couple of your midfielders that have stepped in for the Crows this year have been in terrific form. We know Rory Laird, he's a couple of time All-Australian, he's a two-time best and fairest, including last year. His form in the last few weeks, he's just finding almost new levels. We knew him as a half-back in a really successful Crows side of a few years ago, but he seems to keep improving as a midfielder. What kind of energy and discipline does he bring to that midfield group?
Well, he just wants to keep learning too. I mean, he's obviously, as you mentioned before, he's played half-back most of his career, but he just keeps learning about how he can better his footy as a midfielder, and that's what I've seen. He's just keen to learn. His centre bounce work's gone to another level. He's so quick on his feet, Lairdy. There's a goal he kicked last week. The thing I can't remember who he tackled, but he popped up within, just like a ridiculous amount of time just to keep moving, and that's it's a great quality. But he's a great ball hunter, and we just need to unleash him on a ground like this today.
And Jordan Dawson was the big recruit in the off-season, of course, a South Australian boy who came back from the Swans. He's already sort of proved his worth in that showdown earlier in the year for the
showdown. Dawson,
he was the hero on that occasion, but just the ability to have someone coming off the half-back line through the midfield who uses the football in the way he does, plays in the aggressive manner that he does, can really change the angles and change the outlook of your football club. He's brought a lot to the team by the looks.
Yeah, he's brought plenty. He's played nearly every position, probably aside from ruck, for us across this season. The thing I love most about Dawes is just his leadership. He's added a sense of calmness, experience, and the relationships he's built over, this year so far has been incredible. But yeah, his ability just to lead out their game day and the way he sees the game, that's probably the biggest influence he's had on us that you guys wouldn't see.
Rory Sloane's with us on ABC Sport. Rory, it's Matt Clinch. What about in terms of the leadership group? Obviously, sort of Matty Nix has decided that they'll rotate it amongst Brodie Smith and Ben Keys, Riley O'Brien and Tom Duday. So how do you try and impass that knowledge onto that sort of those individuals to lead in their own style when you can't be out there yourself?
And we're just encouraging. I mean, you don't need a title to lead, and that's been a big thing. I mean, we've got Tex out there. He's once a skipper, always a skipper, and we're just encouraging most of our guys to talk, and that's what we need as a young group. And when we've been successful across the years, when I think back on it, and Scotty Thompson was a big driver of this, but it's just the organised team and the team that sort of talks more and just stays connected. Better than another team, it normally wins, and that's something I always notice or always think back on when we were really humming, and that's something we focus on as a midfield group. It's just how organised can we be at a stoppage, which then just allows you to play. So we're asking just for everyone to lead, really, as well as those guys you mentioned, the leadership group. But we want some young guys like Jimmy Rowe to stand up forward and really vocalise as well.
And obviously we know South Australia, Adelaide is an impatient town, so third year for Matty Nix. You had the 7 wins last year, you've had the 5 this year, and obviously the Sandford team's having a great season as well. So can you see the progression coming along? Do you feel like the green shoots are starting to come through?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've got an even more inexperienced and younger team this season than we do from last year, which is crazy to think. We somehow managed to get younger and more inexperienced, but I'm still seeing more growth, and that's probably the exciting thing. I mean, you've got Jordan Butts down back, Will Hamill. These guys are getting more games. Nick Murray's really coming along. The guys I mentioned in the midfield before, Nettie McHenry plays some really sharp footy, and we've got a lot of young kids that are starting to rack up those games, which is what you need when you really want to start to launch into finals.
You talked about coaching the young kids, potentially your kids. You're starting with some initiatives around that area as well?
Yeah, a little bit. A little footy you're alluding to?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's something that's been in the works for a little while now, the face footy, but just a gap we saw for ages doing so many Auskick clinics. It was just really hard to teach, 15 kids to kick the ball at once. It was always chaos, so simple technique, just cover the ears, point the nose and kick the chin. I've tried to give it to a few of our forwards to make sure we're kicking some goals as well, and it seems to be working the last couple of weeks.
I don't think you could convince Taylor Walker to hang around. Maybe you could model one of the footies on his face if you wanted to.
Yeah, the ears didn't quite fit on that one, so I couldn't quite put his mug on that. But he's in some ripping form, the big Texan, isn't he? So I love seeing that. I knew he was always going to. The way he operates and how hard he works, he's just getting the reward for effort, really. So yeah, I reckon he'll have a fair old day today. He loves the dome, and you can slot him from about 60 here today.
And in terms of the Hawks, how much have you been in team meetings? What have you sort of focused on from their perspective?
Yeah, well, we know how aggressive they can play, and they've played some really solid footy across this season. So, look, for us, as always, it starts with the contest. We want to make sure we give our forwards first crack at it, and then from there, it's all about how well we can pressure them. Because their ball movement's been really sharp and a lead across this season.
Are you in the coach's box this afternoon?
No, bench for me today,
bench.
So I'll take the back seat. I have the cans on so I can hear everything that goes on upstairs and pretend like it's my idea. It's when the boys come and sit on the bench. So, no, it's been nice to just pass on a little bit of experience and what I'm seeing game day for some of these guys. So, and as I said, it keeps me involved, which makes me feel a little bit better about being in rehab.
Absolutely. Rory, great to catch up. Good luck with the recovery. Hopefully we see you back early next season.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. Cheers.
Rory Sloane, the Adelaide Crows captain, joining us on ABC Sport. Matt Clinch, Joel Peterson, Brett Delidio and Mark Murphy with Jess Webster down on the boundary. At the Gabba, it's still the Bombers, 9-8-62, leading the Brisbane Lions 7-9-51. So a 5-2 second term the way of the Dons, and they still have the lead, but Brisbane looking to try and close that gap. I think I said it was 7 changes on Grandstand AFL Sunday. I think it almost got to 9 by the time the team ran out on the field. So health and safety plus injuries. Interesting one for the Lions, who are eyeing a top 4 finish, but as we've seen throughout this weekend, every game is certainly not guaranteed.
No, exactly right, Clinchy. I think for the Lions in particular, I think, given where they've been the last few years, would have been eyeing a top 2 finish, I would have thought. To really guarantee themselves of spending as much time up there in Brisbane as they can, where they're usually very strong. But unfortunately, you can't beat a pandemic, can you? And when that takes its toll, takes out some of your best players and your other role players, it can make things very tough and gives an away team a sniff.
It could be a good time to get it, though. Who knows what happens over the next 6 weeks and then leading into finals. Like, what do you do as a player leading into finals? Do you lock yourself down? Well, it's an interesting question, really. I'm obviously talking about my own question, but it
ask and answer. It's beautiful.
It's interesting to think, because you put yourself in the player's shoes when you're coming up to finals, and if you haven't had COVID for a while, it's something to be wary of, isn't it?
Well, wasn't that trialled at the Western Australian sides that, given COVID is out in the community, let's try and not go out to too many night sports and maybe celebrate amongst ourselves in sort of communal areas rather than going out, and there seems to be one club that's done it better than the other.
I think so, yeah. Well,
when you pose that to a playing group, can you tell instantly whether there's the buy-in from the group, and you sometimes go, I'm not sure if we're all in here?
Yeah, you can instantly tell if you're going to get traction or not. There's been periods over my career when we've had to put a little bit of a ban on drinking alcohol or just locking down and having an important 3 or 4 weeks that, all right, boys, let's really let's lock it down here and just be really footy focused and make sure that we're not putting ourselves in jeopardy. But you can tell instantly there's certain players that won't really like being told what to do, and then there's young guys who they're in the prime of their life, aren't they, Lid? So they probably want to be out and about from time to time. So it's you can tell straight away whether or not you got the whole buy-in from the playing group.
Yeah, I think you've got to not make it a full blanket rule. It's almost like there's a group of guys that need to be told, and most of the time they're young and inexperienced and don't really know how to behave and look after themselves, so to speak. But then you've got your older boys. That I remember trying to put one of these rules in place with Matty Richardson and Nate Brown. They just said, listen, That's not happening. All right, I need me 6 beers after a game just to relax. Otherwise, I'm going to think about this too much, and I'm not going to sleep, which will be far worse than having the beers in the first place. So, I said, look, within reason, let's make sure that we're just looking after each other.
And depending, I guess, on where you're at as a group, you may not even really need to go that far. It's almost like it becomes a personal accountability thing where if you're in the window and you're challenging for a flag or something like that, that you almost want to just trust that players will do the right thing and then empower that, and that sort of can, I guess, build that culture of your group.
Well, that's perfect world. Unfortunately, when you're living in a world where there's 44 young blokes, there's always going to be a small percentage which you need to try and keep on top of. And when you are talking to the whole group, there's only 5 or 6 maybe that you really pointed at, and they know who they are. So it's more of a
scallywags.
The scallywags, yeah. So there's more of a follow-up with that sort of group individually about expectations going forward. And, but talking about the COVID situation going forward, it's going to be an interesting one to see if teams have to go through a little bit of a crisis when, finals are on the horizon.
It's always great to hear from Rory Sloane. We probably don't get to hear from him enough outside of South Australia as the Adelaide Crows captain. Is that a hard time to lead, though, when you're not out there? Because you come focused on your own well-being, your own recovery, and obviously he's been around a long time, so he's probably got the balance better than some others, but you still want to try and pass on some of your knowledge and instinct some values as well.
It's never easy to nail being in rehab, and especially when you're in rehab for a long period of time, and when you are captain and you are injury-ridden and you are in that rehab group, anyone who's in the rehab group loses touch with the main playing group, because everyone's out there training together, they're doing weights together, they're playing together. When you're in rehab, you're basically with the other guys who are injured. You got to work on the mental state of a lot of those guys as well, because it's a very lonely place to be, because you do feel like you're not part of the whole journey. So it's important that, I think Rory was talking then about being on the second part of the bench today and being invested within the coaching staff. That'll just help occupy his mind and feel that he's part of it, and it'll be easy for him to relate the messages and relay those onto his playing group being on there on the bench. But it's a tough spot to be in rehab, especially when you're a leader of a football club.
So more sort of informal catch-ups with various senior members to try and just keep engaged with what's going on.
It is, because you miss out on what's happening at training. Like you're not out there, you're not in amongst it, so you're not feeling the trends, not just on training days, but on games when you're right in amongst it. So he's talking about communication then of the senior guys and the communication expected of some of the non-experienced guys. You don't get a handle on that when you're not out there playing, so you need to be across it as best you can by talking to other leaders and just being across it as much as possible.
So do you become more reliant on having good leaders around you because you have to delegate some of those responsibilities?
Oh, of course. And when you're captain, as I said before, there's 44 on a list. You can't just be across everything and everyone. So delegation is huge. Some teams tend to go with 7 or 8 leaders in a leadership group. Some go with 3. It's all about how you feel you can best impact the playing group. There's always emerging leaders, or we used to call them the linchpins. There's another group, and then there's a development of the leaders. So there's all different types of leadership groups where guys are working on their leadership per se. So it is important to have a good cross-section of the playing group represented within the leaders, or getting some exposure to leadership groups.
Yeah. Especially if you're a lead by example kind of captain. Mark Murphy and Brett Delidio, your experts on a Sunday afternoon. Matt Clinch and Joel Peterson to call all the action. A goal for Peter Wright for the Bombers, so it's a 17-point lead at the 21-minute mark of the third term there at the Gabba. So the Bombers 10-8-68 to the Brisbane Lions 7-9-51. We'll keep you across that match for the rest of the afternoon. Of course, the final match of the weekend, we head to the west. It's the West Coast Eagles taking on the Blues, and isn't there a bit to like about that game? Jess Webster's made her way from being a part of the Adelaide camp. She's now down in the Hawks, just at the top of the race, and she's about to be joined by a senior defender. Jess, down to you.
Sam Frost with us on Grandstand AFL. Thanks so much for your time pre-game. Unfortunately, you've got a knee injury. You must be really wanting to get out there this afternoon, but how's the recovery coming along?
Yeah, recovery's coming along well. We're just respecting the injury for what it is, and it's a bit of a day-by-day thing at the moment, but it's progressing pretty well as expected at the moment.
And we're entering the back end of the season at the moment. What's left to get out of the season for the group? Obviously, wins on the ball would be great, but what's the main goal heading into the last few rounds of the season?
Yeah, wins would be great, but win or loss, there's heaps for our group to get out of the remainder of the season, and a few games is really valuable in their development, and hopefully take some momentum into the off-season and then look forward to next pre-season.
And Ben Mcavoy coming back into the side, a really great story after that really scary neck injury. Must have given the boys a bit of a boost to see him on the team list this week.
Yeah, it's awesome to see him back, and he just went about his business quietly while he was in rehab, so we actually got to see a little bit of his progress and what he's had to deal with along the way, which is really inspiring for the rest of the group, and he just brings so much from a spirit point of view and leadership, so we're happy to have him back.
Let's head upstairs to the box now. Mark Murphy and Brett Delidio.
Sam, Mark Murphy here, mate. I just want to ask you about your rehab. It's obviously tough work, as we all know, being in rehab when you're a professional footballer. Are you taking a sort of a leadership role down there with some of the other guys? Obviously, Ben Mcavoy's been there, and great to see him back today. But what's your role been in that department?
Yeah, I'm hoping to do a little bit more sort of mentoring and get a bit more exposure to the coaching side of things. So I've been in the coach's box for the last couple of games, and I'll continue to do that while I'm in rehab, which is really good for my development. But yeah, hoping to help out a few of the younger backs as well while I'm there, like Denver and James Blank. So yeah, trying to get a bit of development in while I'm injured for sure.
Is coaching something that you want to do down the track?
At this stage, not particularly, no. But I think just being up there is really good for my own learning. But not really.
Frosty, it's Litz. Mate, I just wanted to ask you about a couple of the young boys coming through. You spoke about obviously being a senior member there now, but good to see Josh Ward back into the team today.
Hey, Litz. Yeah, that's right. Josh Morris has had a really consistent year in the VFL, and unfortunately he's had to bide his time, but he's more than earned his spot today. So I'm looking forward to seeing him play. And yeah, Wardy's had a bit of a slow return from concussion, and he brings a lot to our team in the midfield. And yeah, we're apt to have him back in.
Where do we expect to see Joshy Morris play today, front or back end?
I think he'll be half back.
Yeah, okay, nice. And James Blank just got his chance in the mid-season. I spent a bit of time with him down at Box Hill before COVID hit. Mate, tell us a bit about Blanky and what we can expect and what you've been able to teach him in the short time he's been there.
Yeah, Blanky's a ripping young guy. He's eager and he's keen and he's super competitive. So yeah, we're enjoying having him in there. He sort of frees Sis up a little bit as a bit of a lockdown key. But he's a great guy, and yeah, I think he's at a good spot at the moment, but he's got a lot of improvement left in him. So he's been a pleasure to work with.
Sam Frost from the Hawks is with us on Grandstand AFL. Sam, Joel Peterson here. You've spoken about your defence, which obviously you're a part of, but your forward line's been pretty dynamic at times this year, especially Mitch Lewis. You'd see a lot of him at training, maybe opposed to him one-on-one. He's a hell of a matchup, the way that he attacks the ball. What's he like to play on at training and in some of those game situations?
Yeah, no, he's really tough. His patterns and his timing of his patterns are really good, and he just put a ton of work in over the last off-season. So he got in the gym and he put on a heap of size and really prepared himself to have a good pre-season. And so anyone within the club, there's no surprises that he's having the year he's having. But yeah, he's a difficult matchup. He times his run and jump well, and he kicks a lot of goals when he gets his chances.
And of course, you've got Kajitsky as well, so they're a pretty dynamic forward line duo. From the other end of the ground, how have you seen their development as a duo and as a partnership throughout this season?
Yeah, it's been really good. I think Mitch is a touch older than Jake, but they seem to be working really well together, and Jake's obviously had to go through the ruck here and there, but no, they do a great job, and they've got really good connection down there, so it's been good to watch.
Sam Frost with us on ABC Sports. Sam, it's Matt Clinch here. When you've obviously lost 5 on the trot and 9 of the last 10, how's Sam tried to freshen up the group and make sure there's still some enjoyment there, be it a challenging time in the rebuild?
The feeling around the club's actually been really consistent despite having losses in a row, and I think we've been in some close losses. We've been in most of the games, to be honest. So we're sort of feeling like, you know what, we almost deserve a win here. Not that you get what you deserve, but yeah, we're coming out for a win, and Sam's been really positive with the whole group and just taking learnings from each game. And
one of the highlights has been your ball movement. I guess one of the challenges has sort of been conceding big scores. I think 7 times you've had over 100 points in 2022. Is that part of the development, that for the moment the focus is more on the transition rather than the defensive side?
I think the focus has been pretty equal. It just seems to have been that our attacking brand has has gone further ahead than our team defence so far this year, but they're both things we're working on and we'll continue to develop. But yeah, it's one of those things. It's a bit of a fishtail. You tip too much time into your attacking ball movement, and that'll go through the roof, and then you might fall away in other areas. But they're both things we're working on each week.
Who would you normally take on when you face the Crows?
I've played on Tex a few times, and we've had a few good games. So it'd probably be Tex if I was out there. He's a really tough matchup, and he's obviously having a great year. So see how he goes tonight.
So who gets the opportunity this afternoon? Is there a bit of dialogue between you and Tex when you play on each other?
He's not bad. I tend to go out there and not poke the bear. So until he gives me a little bit, we've had a few chats over the years. He's a friendly guy. So I think Sis might get the job to begin with, but we'll see how they line up.
And the other sad story during the week was the passing of Jack Gunston's dad, Ray. Obviously, footy clubs are great because they provide an environment for healing and support. But what sort of contact have you had with Jack since, obviously, the news came through?
The club have been in touch with him personally. I haven't heard from him. I flicked him a message, but obviously you just got to give these things the time and space that they deserve. And it's been absolutely devastating for such a good guy and such a highly regarded character of the AFL between Jack and Ray, obviously. So yeah, it's very sad, but Jack's got all the support at the club to take as much time as he needs, and we're all there to do that for him.
And finally, Jess touched on Ben Mcavoy make his return this afternoon. When he was running around in the neck brace, did you wonder whether he'd get back and play a game this season?
I'm not sure, to be honest. I think they kept a pretty open mind to his return date. I think it's probably earlier than they initially expected, but he put so much work in that he would have been so diligent with his rehab that I'm not surprised he's got back out here by this point of the season. But yeah, it was a bit of an interesting one seeing him train with a neck brace and in the gym with a neck brace. So I'd never seen that before. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, the professionalism that's obviously required to do everything right. Sounds like he's done that to get back ahead of time. Hopefully we'll see you, Sam, before season's end. Thanks for joining us on ABC Sport.
Yeah, thanks guys. Thanks for the chat.
Sam Frost joining us from the Hawthorn Footy Club ahead of the Hawks taking on the Adelaide Crows on Grandstand AFL on ABC Radio and ABC Sport Digital. Matt Clinch alongside Joel Peterson to call all the action. Jess Webster down on the boundary, and your experts are Mark Murphy and Brett Delidio. The Hawks are wearing their Indigenous jersey in celebration of NAIDOC Week. You can probably hear the didgeridoo in the background, and we've just had the lights being dimmed as we were conducting that interview, and people are being encouraged to use the light on their phones to create a bit of an atmosphere here ahead of the game. And this is something that the AFL obviously do a lot better in recent years than what they used to in the past, is trying to embrace some of the Indigenous culture and make sure that they are creating a pathway to see hopefully more Indigenous players in our great game. Hawthorn have won 11 of their last 14 games against the Adelaide Crows. The only blemish of that was at the MCG in 2017, the Adelaide Oval in 2020, and at Docklands last year. So the Hawks would feel like they're good favourites against the Crows, but they have lost their last 5, and Adelaide have won 2 of their last 4. So there's no changes to either side, with Liam Shields, the sub, and Ben Davis for the Adelaide Crows. So do you have a gut feeling? I guess it sort of feels like this game could go either way as to whether the Hawks will be too good at home or they're home away from home, being Docklands, or you see Adelaide sort of setting themselves for a game like this?
Yeah, I kind of can, Clinchy. I think the Crows, where I feel like they could maybe get the Hawks, is in their front end. I think if Tex can really fire Phil Thorpe down there, give him a really good target. Fogarty, I'd love to see him just put together a couple of big games where he's like, righto, here I am. I'm not just going to be that guy who's a flash in the pan, in and out. You might see 1 or 2 good goals from your game, if that, So for mine, though, it's the Hawks and their midfield that can get it done. Mitchell, Newcomb, O'Meara, if he goes through there. I think they're the ones that are going to have to basically get the ball going forward. And we've spoken about how good the Hawthorn forward line is, with Mitchy Lewis down there and Lukey Bruce. So, look, it's an exciting game. I feel like we're hopefully in for a high-scoring one, Murph. I think that's probably going to be the key for us, is just get a really good brand. But, we walk away from it saying, yep, these guys are on the right track.
Yeah, and I think recent form's really interesting, and it's important to go off. The Adelaide Crows, they played a really good brand of football last week against the Demons and got pretty close to them, didn't they? It was just probably more their lack of their foot skills really hitting targets and making the most of those opportunities, because their pressure and their contested ball work, especially around the stoppages, has been a real highlight for them this year. So they're playing some good footy. 2 of the last 4 that they've won. They played a really good brand of football last week, and the Hawks, earlier on in the year they were doing some really good things. I think the last 4 or 5 weeks they've let themselves down. So they'll be looking forward to really answering a few critics this week and getting back on the winners list. But they don't really play a great brand of football here at Marvel. The average losing margin's 38 points here.
You've done your research, haven't you? Look at you go.
Yeah, well, I've had to do a bit of research on the Hawks. But so it'll be interesting to see how they go about it. It's obviously a ground that they don't play too well. So they'll be looking forward to ticking that box and getting back on the winners list.
So the Adelaide Crows have made their way out onto Docklands, and the Hawks are a few moments away with some of the friends and family out making a guard of honour as the Hawks are about to make their way out onto Docklands. Approaching three-quarter time at the Gabba. It's the Bombers still holding a 12-point lead despite a goal from Link McCarthy and then another goal to Peter Wright. So Pete has 4 for the game. Cole Langford with 3, McCarthy with 3 and McInerney with 2 alongside Mitch Robinson. So it's still the Bombers at the moment 11-9-75 leading the Brisbane Lions 9-9-63.
He's been in some good form, Big Pete Wright, hasn't he? He's been kicking goals.
He's had a great season. He's had a great couple of seasons since coming across from the Gold Coast Suns.
Yep, absolutely. I think they'll be very happy with Big Pete and what he's been bringing. So it's, hopefully they can hold on, the Bombers. It'll do their confidence the world of good.
It'll make the final 6 pretty interesting, won't it? There'll be quite a few sides on some even points if the Blues can get over the line against Eagles later on this afternoon. And if Essendon can hang on here, it'll put them even on points with Brisbane, the Blues.
Of course, the final match of the round is taking place from Perth. It's the West Coast Eagles taking on the Blues. The Blues don't have a great record in Perth, Murph. I probably don't have to tell you that against the Eagles. So it feels like a really interesting game. Carlton's form have been a bit up and down in recent weeks. Great against the Dockers and a little bit less so last week.
Yeah, they haven't had a great record against the Eagles over there, but I think they like playing that ground. It's very similar, obviously, to the MCG. The Eagles are an interesting one. We saw them last week, and Nick Natton is just so influential in that side, and he just makes his midfielders so much better players around him. So they'll have to have their contested work at a really high level, the Blues, this afternoon, because the Eagles have got some weapons up forward with Liam Ryan, obviously Josh Kennedy coming back into the side. He's been a star, so they'll have their work cut out for them, that's for sure. It's no easy task at the better end of the times when you have to go over to the West. Lids, as we know, it's a big trip, and the Eagles are starting to get their mojo back a little bit.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think they're a full-strength Carlton. I'd be much more confident, but given the injuries and whatever else, it's probably. I thought the Eagles were right last week. They equal scoring shots with the Tigers, just didn't capitalise, and probably were forward short in the end in Big JK. So him back this week, especially with the lack of tall backs for the Blues, it'd be a danger game, that's for sure.
I'm looking forward to seeing big Tom DeConning go against Nick Nat. Nick Nat's just a beast and just such an absolute champion of the game. And Tom DeConning, everyone's thinking that he's going to be the next superstar, so it'll be great for him to go up against Nick Nat and really test himself against the best.
He's had a good month of footy, DeConning playing and going up against some really tough opposition. The Eagles could shape a few things in the run home as well. So obviously they've got Carlton today, then they travel to play Hawthorn next week, but they've got the Saints, the Suns, Freo and Geelong in their run home, as well as playing the Crows. So I just feel like they're maybe a team you don't want to play, because their best 10 is still... It's still a pretty good run of names. They haven't had the depth so far this year, and they've had all kinds of injuries. But I don't reckon you'd want to run into the Eagles, especially over in Perth. Yeah,
they play the Saints in Perth. They play Adelaide in Perth and Freo, obviously in Geelong. Geelong's down to the Catteries. So, they might shape.
They've been putrid down there of late, though. They've had a couple of big hidings.
They got smashed by the Swans by 92, I think it was, late in the year last year. And the other game was against the Cats, and they lost that by close to 100 as well.
Yeah. So they don't travel that well down there.
They might rest a few going down there, I reckon.
Just put it in the book as an L.
That being said, if Tim Kelly can play like he did last week, maybe he's one who would be worth the price of admission to watch at his former home. You would have heard the Hawks make their way out onto Docklands. They're led by Ben Mcavoy, who's one of 5 inclusions for the Hawks this week, alongside Granger Barras, McGuinness, Morris and Ward. There's no Day, Bramble, Warple, Butler, Gunston and Liam Shields is the sub. So I guess both sides have firepower with Tex Walker and Mitch Lewis. You throw in the likes of Kajitsky and Riley Thilthorpe's an interesting one. High draft pick. They clearly want to see more of him. Darcy Fogarty's had a good improving year this year. So how do you see the battle between the two forward lines?
Oh, well, I think you speak of Thilthorpe, and if you draft a ruckman, you give him 4 or 5 years before you even expect anything out of him. But this kid's 200 centimetres, so he's still working out where his arms and legs go. I think he's certainly got talent. There's no doubt about it. But, he's going to take some time. Just because they're near the bottom of the ladder, and Murph, you obviously number one draft pick, understand what it's like to go to a side that's not at the top of their game when you first get there. There's a lot of responsibility that comes on to this kid to, be the one who's going to lead them forward. So, I'm pretty patient with someone like Riley, but what excites me is the Mitch Lewis. Obviously, I was down at the Hawks for 6 months prior to COVID hitting and saw firsthand what he was able to do, but wasn't able to do it consistently like he has been this year. Just exciting talent, his ability to run and jump and catch it at the highest level, kicking it really well.
So you could see the signs a couple of years ago.
His movement and that for a guy his size, like beautiful kick of the footy, good mark and whatever else, but had his injury troubles and just probably didn't realise what it took to compete for 4 quarters. I think he saw Gunston and a couple of others, obviously Roughhead before hit that as the key post down there, and he's like, I'm just the third stringer, whereas now it's like, I'm the big dog, and I'm going to take control of this forward line and kick it in, and I'm going to catch it, which has been really exciting for Hawks fans and for Mitch. But, it's that at that end, and then Darcy Fogarty's probably the one underneath Tex, and I saw that with Jack Rewalt under Matt Richardson for many years. Jack probably had the confidence just to say, well, I respect you, old boy, but kick it into me, I can still catch it as well. Whereas Jay Schultz was like, nah, I'm going to Port Adelaide because it's just not working under the big dog, So I think, if Darcy can just say that, it's like, right, Tex, get up the ground, do your work, but I'm going to control this area. We'll start to see the best out of him.
I think if you're going to ask anyone who is in Adelaide at the moment, I think Darcy Fogarty wants Tex Walker to be involved for the long haul with him at Adelaide,
helps
doesn't he? Because it just takes the number one defender is going to go to Tex Walker, and it just allows Darcy to work out his game and be against one of Adelaide's greatest forwards. He's going to learn a lot from having to work with him over the years. So I think Tex Walker just needs to be there for Darcy Fogarty going forward. Obviously, the Adelaide Footy Club. So there's obviously talk about whether or not he's going to be a required player next year. But I think for mine, I think the benefit that you get from not just having him for what he brings as a player, but the leadership and what that does for players around him.
Both Darcy and Riley benefit from having Tex Walker. There's no secret to Riley or Darcy playing good footy. It's work rate and hard work, isn't it? You do both of those things and you become a good player.
Team building wise, they're an interesting contrast to the 2 forward lines. So Adelaide have used 2 first-round picks to get Thilthorpe and Fogarty. They got Tex, and he's been an established player for a long time. So Hawthorn have got Mitch Lewis at pick 76. They got Jacob Kajitsky at pick 52 in the 2018 draft, and Dylan Moore, who's the other leading goalkeeper in their forward line, was pick 67. So it's not just one way to skin a cat when you're trying to build a forward line.
No, that's huge. Like, to get those, they're diamonds in the rough, aren't they? Those numbers, you're basically anything over, pick.
They're free hits.
Well, pick anything over probably pick 35, 40. It's like, well, if it doesn't come off, well, so be. You're not really expected to be, a 150 game player, are you? So to get those players that far down the draft, the recruiting staff there, got to tip the hat to them, and also the development of the coaches there at Hawthorn as well for bringing these young guys on.
The voice of Mark Murphy alongside Brett Delidio with you on ABC Sport. Start of the final term from the Gabba. It's still the Bombers leading by 12 points, 11-9-75 to the Brisbane Lions, 9-9-63. The Lions with a heap of changes from last week, partially due to injury and health and safety reasons. Peter Wright with 4 goals, Cole Langford with 3, Link McCarthy with 3 as well. So we'll keep you across the closing stages there from the Gabba as well. Tom Mitchell plays his 100th game for the Brown and the Gold. Sort of interesting stage as to where his career is at. It sort of feels like he and Jager O'Meara are a bit on the outside in terms of the way Hawthorn are moving the ball and the way in which they'd like to play in the midfield, with a lot of opportunities to the younger guys. The likes of Josh Ward gets a chance today, and we've seen Connor Nash in there as well. How do you see Tom Mitchell's role this afternoon?
Well, I would have thought he'd spend a fair bit of time inside. It'd be interesting to get an honest conversation with Tom as to see where he thinks his best footy is and whether he's enjoying it and what he's actually, where he sees his footy at. Is it to explore and go see somewhere else where someone might, whether he feels valued or I don't know any of the answers to this. It's more just you can usually see the writing on the wall, can't you, from an outsider with a guy that's won best and fairest and Brownlow as a full-time midfielder. Then he shifted to on the wings and half forward to. So we're going to give the young guys some chance. So it'd be interesting in your thoughts, Murph, on how you think his mindset would be.
Well, I think there'll be some interesting conversations at the back half of this season, at the end of the season, when Sam Mitchell and Tom Mitchell sit down and talk about where the football club's going, where they want Tom to be a part of that. If they see him being an inside midfielder for 3 or 4 more years to come, or whether they want him to be a bits and pieces player. And then it's about what Tom wants to do, isn't it? Does he still feel that he's got a lot to offer, being the man in the middle? And if he does, and he can feel that he wants to go on to another football club and be that bloke and push for a premiership, then that's what he has to weigh up as a player. Does he feel he's invested, that he needs to be here at Hawthorn? Do they want him here? And where do they see him playing? So there's a lot of questions that need to be asked at the end of the season, because as you said, he's a Brownlow medalist, and he did say during the week he's played his best football of his career at Hawthorn. So you'd think he'd love the place and want to be part of it. It's just about having those conversations at season's end.
Yeah, that's the hard thing to weigh up. He can find the footy in his sleep, but it's about what he does with it when he finds it, and then what he's doing on the other side of the ball as well. I think that's a little bit similar probably to Matty Crouch at Adelaide. It's like, well, yeah, mate, we know you can find it that many times. Yep. Can you be more damaging, but also can you stop someone else from getting a heap of the footy? And that's, mate, it's so crucial in today's game, is to be able to actually go both ways. And I'm not suggesting for 1 minute that they're not willing to do that. It's about, you're willing, yes, but are you able to actually execute? And that's, mate, we both know how hard it is to run defensively. The ground turns into a hill sometimes, Mount Everest, going back the other way. But downhill, tell you what, going towards goals.
That's right. It's hard to tackle when you've got the ball, Lids, isn't it?
Well, you can't tackle yourself, that's for sure. But and that would probably be Mitchie's argument, wouldn't it? He's like, well, I'm finding so much of it, but let's just work out ways to be a bit more damaging. Let's not try to suck the ball out of some of the young boys' hands in worse positions. I've seen evidence of that from games that we've done. It's just like, well, yeah, give me 25, but give me really high quality ones that put someone else into space, versus 35 and a few junkies that don't really matter.
Yeah. And I think if he's really buying in, and he's obviously a leader at that football club, that you'd think you'd want your best players to want to be part of it going forward. And he's only 29. He's averaging 28 disposals a game this year. So he can find the ball pretty easily, as you said, Leeds. But it's about what happens from those disposals, and then what happens when he doesn't have the ball, and what he's actually offering to the young guys around him. So there's no doubt that he's going to make other guys better around him, those midfielders, because he's a hard worker and he works hard in his game with his skills, and you can tell that by the way in which he's so clean around the contest. So there's no doubt he makes other players around him better. It's about whether or not the Hawthorn Football Club want him to be part of the long-term journey with them.
And a bit of an identical conversation with Matt Crouch, who's starting on the bench, so off the back of 41 disposals against Glenelg 2 weeks ago, and then 42 and a goal, 10 clearances against South Adelaide, starting on the pine.
Well, you're back in the senior team, which is what he'll be most excited about. So, I've seen plenty of guys come through that scenario over the journey, and it's never a tough one, especially if it's one of your mates you're watching have to play great footy in the reserves but not quite get their go. So we got a close watch today to see how he's going and what the story might have been towards him during the week.
And the final member of our team, Jess Webster, in the front row. Welcome to you, Jess.
Thanks, Clinchy. Good to be here. Great to see a smoking ceremony pre-game for NAIDOC week, but the haze hasn't quite left the venue yet with the roof closed, so that might linger for a little bit longer to start this match.
Thanks, Jess. It's round 17 of the AFL, Hawthorn and Adelaide. The Hawks looking to snap a 5-game losing streak. Adelaide looking for their 3rd win in 5 weeks. Here's Joel Peterson.
Big fella Reeves for the Hawks won the opening tap. Newcombe tried to soccer it off the ground. Ricocheted away to Laird. Handball to Jones for the Crows, who kicks them forward over the head of Soligo. Jath chasing the football back there. He'll be first to get it along the boundary line. Taps it out toward the boundary line. Umpire says it came off his knee, not off his boot, as it went over the line. So it won't be out of bounds on the full. Crows kicking to the Lockett end to start us off. Ben Mcavoy back into the fray as Hawks skipper won the toss. And the Hawks will kick to the right of your radio dial in this opening term. Ward at the stoppage, right on the 50 here for the Crows. Flicking the handball up McHenry. And now out to Berry, around the body to Walker, who blazes away on goal. And that's a long way left, out of bounds on the full. Free kick from the last line to be taken by James Sicily for the Hawks.
Sicily got the Tex Walker matchup. Interesting, he let him go at that forward 50 stoppage and sat off him Tech's getting that first shot, but obviously putting it out of bounds on the full.
Ben Mcavoy also starting forward alongside Tom Duday. Now Sicily's trying to run along the boundary, but ran the wrong side of the line, having played on, so rightfully was called out of play. And a boundary throw in for the Crows, deep in attack.
Don't often see that, do you?
No.
Someone, come on, sis. Been playing enough footy now to know that, I reckon.
I think the argument is if you're keeping a straight line on where they let you get away with that, but if you move off your line, then it's clearly a throw in. Now, a free kick off the ball before the ball can be thrown in. Ben Keys is going to get a free kick here. James Sicilly's in conversation. Josh Ward as well. So it's not just one blemish, it's two from the Hawks, and it's going to result in the opening shot on goal.
Well, I didn't actually see exactly what that was for, but it was right in front of the umpire.
Ben Keys, a gift from 30 metres out, 45-degree angle, he comes in and pokes at it. And he missed it to the left-hand side, a minor score. So the Crows failed to take the full toll. They lead by a point, though, through the opening 2 minutes.
And here's the one knock on his game, Keys, isn't it? The finishing ability wasn't on show there. Long kick in for the Hawks. Spills to Nash. Little blind turn inside the defensive 50. Hands it off to Morris, who gets it moving forward for Hawthorn. Kajitsky goes up. Can't mark. Hamill over the top for the Crows. Now O'Brien on the City side wing. Handball off to Smith. That raking right boot inside the 50. Scrimshaw almost pulled it in as the umpire paid the mark he has. And Jack Scrimshaw's got it for the Hawks. Now a chance for Sicily to redeem himself. He whips the kick across the defensive 50. It's an absolute tracer bullet to Morrison. He hands it off to Jaff. And now to Newcomb as Jaff keeps on running. CJ down the dock side. Gets to centre wing. Kicks to half forward. Lovely delivery. Finds Moore. 55 from home at right half forward. Where's Lewis? He leads up and hits him on the chest. 45 metres out, 45-degree angle right of centre. Too strong for Jordan Butts on that occasion.
It's obviously always the case, isn't it? You Crows have had a couple of looks inside forward 50. The Hawks go down once, and the ease at which they were able to do that, Murph, will frustrate Matty Nix, especially early in the game. But I like the patience of Dylan Moore. Just held it up across the 50 and just waited for Mitch Lewis to do his work. Then a beautiful little touch kick just allowed him to run straight into the footy.
31 goals, 12 on the season from his 11 games. He's been finishing well. He strikes this from just inside the 50. It's left all the way. It almost got a helping hand through. And it's been paid as the first minor score for the Hawks. Scores tied at 1 behind apiece through 3.5 minutes of the opening turn.
As the Crows bring it back into play through Dawson, out to Laird, who takes the mark in the right back pocket for the Adelaide Crows. Can work it to Duday on the defensive 50. And he looks for options down the line. Nothing really long, so has to continue short. Finds Smith. Still at right half back for the Adelaide Crows. Behind a piece through the opening 4 minutes here at the Gabba. It's still the Bombers leading by 13 points. And Smith's long. Up to the wing. Taylor Walker presents. Brings it down, but Tom Mitchell front and centre. Kicks towards Mcavoy at half forward. Nudged underneath it by Hamill. Couldn't take the mark. Butts onto it for the Crows. Tackled and dispossessed. Slipping over was Keys. A chance for Ward. Can't clear Laird. And his hand pass through the middle of the ground is picked off by Newcomb.
So Newcomb hands it off to Mitchell. And now Hardwick drops it into the bucket in front of Morrison, who spent it before he had it. Dropped the mark, sockers it off the ground toward full forward. Kajitsky comes out with a barrel roll. Butts picked it up, handed it off toward Jones. Couldn't take it cleanly. Moore goes across the line like he's diving for a try in the upcoming State of Origin decider. And he finds touch, 35 out from the Hawks' goal in the right forward pocket.
Don't come around all those opportunities, still there on the wing. You've got to take them, make the most of them, Murph, that's for sure.
All spun back into play. Reeves first hands to it. Jones there for the Hawks inside the defensive 50. Bruce goes low, met the legs of Berry, and will get a free kick for Hawthorn.
Well, there's nothing much you can do about that. That's stiff. Bruce basically going to pick up the ball that was in between Berry's legs and essentially just ran into him and headbutted his knee.
Yeah, very hard to get yourself out of the way when you're already there at the coalface trying to win it.
He's not a man that you need to give an opportunity to. Luke Bruce, game 254 for the Hawthorn sharpshooter. That's well across the face. Almost teed it up. O'Brien thumped it off the head of Kajitsky and it goes through out of play for a throw in deep in the left forward pocket.
Behind a piece through the opening 6 minutes here at Docklands. Inside 50s, a couple apiece. As it's thrown back into play. Reeves doing the ruck work against Bing O'Brien who wins it down. Still a chance for Adelaide in defence. Murray couldn't take it. Hard one to try and clear for Mitch Lewis. Eventually it comes to Rees, who jams it on the boot and kicks the opening goal of the match. The unlikely big man was able to shimmy it through and kick the first goal. 1-1-7 the Hawks to Adelaide 1 behind. 6 minutes gone, opening term on ABC Sport.
Very clean from the big man there, below his knees. Just ball bobbled his way, and
Geez, you would have got good odds, wouldn't you? Big fella to kick the first goal.
Yeah, I suppose right time, right place, but clean below his knees and snapped one over his left shoulder. It's a great start for the big man up forward, who started in the ruck, but now he'll drift forward. And
I think it was Schoenberg who coughed that ball up back into the corridor, which allowed the Hawks to get back onto it. When you get your chance, especially D30, you just got to pump that thing out of there.
Yeah, you've got to take on the tackle there and try and drive towards a teammate. He just had the ball, great start, but then just handballed to no one.
Brett Delidio and Mark Murphy, your experts on Grandstand AFL Sunday afternoon footy under the roof at Docklands. Thilthorpe in the middle for the Crows. Extracts it to Berry, who kicks inside forward 50. O'Brien the target. Blank there for the Hawks. Did well. Gathered it at ground level. Turned. Handball to Granger Barras. He had a fumble. Sliding in was Rowe for the Crows inside the forward 50. Berry's out the back. Now Haitley from the paint of the arc. Kicks high to fall forward. Jaff goes up. Can't bring it down. Morrison waited for it. And it's going to be a free kick at fullback. In fact, the Hawks will be paid the advantage here as Moore moves it to Impey toward the wing. Coming the other way is Duday. Takes Impey down. Didn't have the ball. Slapped toward the boundary line. Umpire said it was okay. And then says chuck it in just in front of the wing for the Hawks.
It was well done, wasn't it, from Duday? Just took off and came forward to really pressure the man and made contact with Impey and forced the boundary throw in.
Hawthorn by 6 points. Toss back into play. Mcavoy up against Thilthorpe. Thilthorpe wins it down to Keys. Hand pass to Schomburg. Kicks to half forward to Dwight of Walker. And Sicily marks on his chest. Right half back for the Hawks. Spinning the footy in his hands as he looks at options. Corridor first, then boundary side towards Hardwick. It just cleared the hands of Saligo. And he takes the mark centre wing. Looking at options. Spots one. Mcavoy leading towards half forward. Up the big ruck. Can't quite juggle the mark. A chance for Duday. Stripped of it in the tackle. O'Meara gets down low. Gets the hand pass to Morrison, who now becomes the tackler on Crouch. Couldn't get a boot to it. Ball spills clear. O'Meara boundary side to Mitch Lewis. Kicks around his body inside 50. Adelaide are well set. Murray almost juggled the mark. Now Jarman Impey trying to cut through a couple of tackles. Gets onto his right. Finishes and steps. No. Just missed to the right. Did everything right apart from the execution. And Hawthorn lead by 7 points through 9 minutes in the opening term.
Crows quickly in through Dawson. On Smith, who assumed the coin tossing role as the acting captain of the day for the Crows. Long right foot kick up the city wing. Jaff picks it off easily. Just in front of the wing for the Hawks on the outer side. Hawthorn by 7 points through 9 minutes. Lewis hits up at half forward, out to the left, goes to the pocket. Kajitsky the lead, got hands to it, trying to knock it down toward Bruce. Dawson took it off the pack, away to Smith, who thumps it outside the defensive 50. There's going to be a free kick in the marking contest, and it's going the way of the brown and gold. Mitch Lewis is a little bit sore, but he's going to end up with the ball 65 out.
And pass away to Jaff, who reloads. High ball inside the 50. Have a fly at that. Kajitsky underneath. Comes down to the front. Morrison steps on goal. Bounces and bounces through. The Hawks with their second. Harry Morrison able to find himself in the right place at the right time. They're 2-2-14 to the Adelaide Crows, one behind. Meanwhile, at the Gabba, it's still the Bombers. Peter Wright with 5 goals. 13-10-88 leading the Brisbane Lions. 11-9-75 in the final term.
Well, all the Hawks boys are setting up here in a zone because the Crows boys went straight up and said that was touched. The ball's going back towards the middle, but there's still people lingering, just checking to see what's happened there. Might be a giveaway. Harry Morrison sitting up as his wing zone roll. He's the guy who kicked it, but we spoke about his opportunity before and dropped that one, but that was great wing craft, right front and centre on his side of the ground, gets his shot on goal.
Let's go downstairs to Jess Webster on the boundary.
Yeah, just having a look at Mitch Lewis behind play. He was slow to get up and looking a bit ginger. The trainer raced out to him. He's pushed the trainer away and is staying out in the ground, but he doesn't look 100%, so I'll keep my eye on him.
Thanks, Jess. The umpire motioned all the players to come into the centre. They got an awful surprise when they realised it was going to be bounced out in the middle. There was no goal review. They took a look at it. It was signed off. And we're going to get it underway in the centre again. Mcavoy to rise in ruck against Thilthorpe. The two number 7s, one at the start of their career and one very much in the twilight, the veteran Hawk. Going to do it all again after the tackle is laid inside the centre circles. Hawthorn by 13 points early stages on Sunday afternoon footy. Moore's in the middle for the Hawks. He can't take it. Imira's there, tackled by Thilthorpe. Bit of intensity from the big Crow. Good to see. And another ball up still in the centre.
14 weeks on the sideline for Ben Mcavoy. No VFL. Straight back into the senior side. Laird gets the clearance for the Crows. Kicks inside 50. It's over the head of Tex Walker. And racing back, Sicily marks on his chest. Hawthorn leading by 13 points. They play 12 minutes in the opening term. Wide to Morris, who takes it at right half back for the Hawks.
Sicily started well on Big Tex, hasn't he?
Certainly has.
Couple intercept marks already. As Morris wants to find a way around McHenry. Hand pass to Blank. Back to Morris through the corridor. Hand pass wide to Morrison. Hately can't break through. He's tackled. Umpire says no prior opportunity. The ball up in the middle of Docklands.
You can see the willingness of young Josh Morris to run and take the game on. You might just use your feet next time, big fella, I reckon.
South Australian against the Crows this afternoon, playing in Hawks colours. Imira spikes it out of the middle on the boot. Butts takes a good intercepting mark at the top of the defensive 50 for the Crows. Shoots it short to Duday. He's going to come short to Keys. Enjoying another prolific season as a ball winner. 30 disposals in each of his last 2 games, Ben Keys. Runner-up in the best and fairest last year. See Saligo out wide, goes shorter than that to Jones, who's got it at left half back. Adelaide just hemmed in for now, one behind the Crows. The Hawks 2-2, 13 minutes into the first term, and here's Matt Crouch back in this side after a prolific display in the SANFL over the past fortnight.
It's having trouble trying to penetrate the zone here. The Crows, they just keep chipping it around. Hawthorn set up really well behind the ball.
First disposal for Crouch, goes to Keys, and then now to Patrick Parnell, who's signed a new contract extension during the week. Has a left half back for the Crows. Veers out to the right. Sends it long in the direction of O'Brien. Thilthorpe's there as well. Off hands. Jaff takes it. He's tackled immediately. And there's nowhere to go. There's Saligo with good intent. Locked the footy up at left half forward for Adelaide.
So Reeves and Thilthorpe to battle in ruck. Ward threw a boot at it for the Hawks. Free kick paid by the umpire for a dangerous tackle on Thilthorpe. So Moore will take it for Hawthorn. Had a prolific start to the season, did more goal kicking wise, playing a little bit more in the middle in the last couple of weeks. Sent it into the corridor. Wonderful blind turn from Scrimshaw after it was almost turned over. Got it off to Granger Barras, who whacks it blindly to the wing. A high footy, backspins back into play. Lewis knocks it over the top, cleverly to Reeves. A nice bit of roving. And then he had the shotgun runner in Moore, who kicks inside the 50. Impey goes up. Smith bodied him up, and he's going to be paid a free kick for a Shepherd. And Jarman Impey, having been in the right position, attacked the ball, copped the front on contact, and will go back from the right forward pocket about 30 out to shoot at goal.
Well, that come about through Mitch Lewis and his willingness to keep the ball in, hit it back in towards the corridor, and back in his ruckman of all people to be able to pick it up and get the ball going forward. So,
second nice bit of ground level work from Big Reeves.
Big Ned, but I think the Hawks are showing a willingness to go back through the corridor and take the game on.
So Impey missed one earlier. The set shot isn't a lot better. It's out to the right, and it's a minor score. 2 behinds to Jarman Impey in the early stages. We're halfway through the opening term. The Hawks by 14 points, 2-3. Plays the Crows 1 behind on Grandstand AFL.
And at the Gabba, it's still the Bombers by 11 points. A couple of behinds for the Brisbane Lions, but they can't get much closer than that at this stage. Time on final term. Long kick towards half-back. Thilthorpe underneath it from the long kick from Brodie Smith. A chance to get back on it here. Berry shoved it. He's got a kick away. It resulted in the kick going out on the full. Too wide for Rowe. And the Hawks will take it back through Tom Mitchell. Playing his 100th game for the Hawks this afternoon. 2018 Brownlow medalist, got his best kick back to Hardwick, who has to regather. Got it to Blank, another protege of the Box Hill factory for the Hawks, all the way back to Sicily on the last line of defence. Looks to return it back to the right back pocket, and Hardwick has it. More precise in his delivery, up towards Tom Mitchell, who marks running back with the flight.
Well, he Well, looked for the 5-iron last time and pulled out the putter. This time he just runs around looking for an option, offloads to Newcombe, spears it down the line. Impey hits up at high half forward and pulls it in on his chest. John Newcombe just continues to show his skills. Impey's 2 kicks from home. Lofts it inside the forward 50. Big pack up, butts hands to it. Umpires picked one out, going Hawthorn's way. The 2 key forwards, the last there, Lewis and Kajitsky, and the former will get the free kick.
He's already had a sider from here, Joel, hasn't he? So hopefully he's done his homework.
Look very suspect at the moment in the air, the Adelaide defence. They've already given away 2 free kicks inside 50, and you can just tell they're getting a little bit nervous because of the weight of inside 50s that are just coming out thick and fast.
So Lewis had the opening shot of the game for the Hawks, couldn't convert. 49 metres out, he absolutely flushes it. He certainly has learnt from the first effort, Brett Delidio. As straight as an arrow. And Lewis gets Hawthorn's third. 3-3-21 the Hawks. They've jumped out of the blocks. The Crows 1 behind through 17 minutes of the first.
You're right, Murph. They do look a little bit troubled down there, don't they, when the high ball comes in. I want to highlight the foot skills of John Newcombe. We know he can do the tough stuff. Put his head in the hole. Loves to tackle, but laces Jarman Impey out just down here along the boundary. And they look like they're in a bit of trouble, so they had to find a target. Long ball to a contest, and that's what you want your keys doing, isn't it? Presenting and being able to bring the ball to ground. If they don't mark it, it comes to ground. If not, they get a free kick. And as you said, Joel, Mitchy Lewis did his homework, remembered what it was like the first one, and then just knocked that one right over the umpire's hat.
The voice of Brett Delidio with you on ABC Sport. Back in the middle, O'Brien went early, missed it. Nash tries to knock it forward for the Hawks. O'Meara volleys it towards half forward. Foot races on. McDonald got an awkward bounce that allowed the Crows through Thilthorpe to tap it down to Jones. Little dribbling kick to Berry, had to do the hard work. Got it to Crouch, and then shoved over the line was Dawson. And a tackle by Finn McGuinness for a boundary throw-in just in front of the Hawthorn bench. Dawson shoved down as well by Morrison. Umpire says that's all okay, throw it in. Goal to Eric Hipwood for the Brisbane Lions. They're back within 5 points. Well, we might have just had another goal for the Bombers as well. Thrown back in. Reeves wins down the tap. Morrison can't take it. Keys for the Crows can. Hand pass out in front of Crouch. Pressured off it by O'Meara. Ball pinballs around. Berry's in there. Sliding in was Laird. Got it to Crouch. Can't get a hand pass away. Could have been holding the footy. Tom Mitchell kicks into the middle of the ground. Hamill juggles the mark. Did enough against Luke Bruce to be claimed it. An impressive catch.
One of the ins for the Crows this week, alongside Crouch and McHenry. Wonderful kick from Smith. Opens the field up to Keys. Keys on over the top to Miller. It takes it low down at right half forward. 70 from home for the Crows. Pokes it inside the 50. Tex on the end of it. 45 out. 10 in from the boundary out to the right.
Well, it's amazing what a good kick does, and Laird's been a beautiful kick his entire career, but just the vision, just to look the shortest route home and just saw a man streaming forward to have a go at that kick rather than just go sideways and take an easier one. That's what opens up this set shot for Tex Walker.
Rory Sloane said before the game that he might be in for a big day, Tex. He kicked 4 against the Hawks when they last met here at Docklands from right on the 50. He strikes it and he loves it. And the Crows fans behind the goals at the Lockett end love it as well. First for the Crows today, 1-1-7, Hawthorn 3-3-21, the margin 14 points, time on in the opening term, and that is textbook. Taylor Walker.
Well, I'll give you till quarter time to come up with it, Murph, but I want you to find a purer striker of the footy than Tex Walker. He is beautiful to watch on the set shot, but also on the run, left or right. Yeah. But it was that kick. Brodie Smith went back through the middle of the ground and found Ben Keys working across, and then to Wayne Miller. His foot skills to get in front of Tex, but it's all well and good for big James Sicily to sift off and to be able to take those intercepts. But when the ball's in good user's hands, you've got to be right up top.
And moving quickly, he's got to be closer.
Adelaide's first goal comes at the 20-minute mark. They almost had a gift to start proceedings in which they couldn't take through Ben Keys. A free kick holding the footy against the Hawks. It's going to go the way of Rory Laird. So chance go inside 50 once more. Laird looks at options, decides to drive it long towards Walker and Thilthorpe. Both are in the pack, spoiled down by Blank of the Hawks. It ricochets out towards Chase Jones, who picks it up for Adelaide. Hand pass to Hamill, right half forward, chips it to Walker. Here he is again. Tex on the lead, and there wasn't much Sicily could do about that one either.
No, you can't do much about that. That's just a smart kick. Just put it into the space, and Tex was probably only 25 minutes away from the disposal in the end, but just the smash to put it out into the only bit of space that was available to him. And Tex, as you said before, Lids, if you want to have anyone having a set shot for you for your life from about 45, 50 out, you're probably aiming for Tex Walker, I would have thought.
Almost a little bit similar to sort of Lance Franklin and Jonathan Brown. The further out, the more comfortably looks from 50 for his second. Guaranteedly put the Moz on him there. Missing to the left and a minor score. Hawthorn by 13 points. Goal to Jai Caldwell, then a goal to Cam Rayner, and it's back to 5 points at the Gabba.
We're all thinking it, Clinchy, just only one of us said it.
Yeah. One full.
Hardwick brings it into Granger Barras, just inside the defensive 50. He's going to swing it across the back 50 to Nash. Got a trivia question for you, Lids and Murph. These two sides have been around for a while. How many times do you reckon they've played here at Docklands, the Hawks and the Crows?
I reckon they've played that one final here.
So you reckon only once?
Prior to this?
Obviously,
Yep, prior to this. I'll let you sit on it. We'll come back to that. The Hawks are moving the ball through the centre of the ground. Scrimshaw to Mitchell. Mitchell up to half forward. Bruce out on the lead. Knocked it down. Ward took it. Shared the handball back with Bruce. Out at left half forward. Kicks inside the 50. Through the hands of Lewis. Duday's there. Met solidly. Goes to ground. And Mcavoy picks it up. Handball out to Impey. Umpires paid a free kick in the contest. They've all stopped. It's coming back to the Hawks and it's coming back to Lewis.
The umpire was trying to have a look to see whether Jarman was going to go on with that and have the shot, but
and then Jarman's run an extra 20 metres, put the arms out like, come on, got the advantage.
And forward pushing the back in the end, was it? To Lewis? Is that when someone put a saddle on him and landed in his back, I think? But yeah, he started well, Mitch.
So Mitch Lewis, he has had a couple of shots in the early stages. 28 goals, 11 from set shots on the season. This one from 45 metres out. Right foot kick. He pumps the fist as soon as he lets it go. Hawks with 4 in the opening term. It's an imposing start from the brown and gold. 4-3-27 to Adelaide 1-2-8. 23 and a half minutes gone in the opening term. I'll put you out of your misery, Mark Murphy. You were very close. Twice.
Double that.
Twice. So the 2007 Elimination Final, which is that famous one between these two teams, they played here in round 19 last year, but they played more at Waverley Park than they have here at Docklands.
I thought that might have been the case. My only memories of them playing here, obviously, was when Buddy kicked it from about 55, and that whole bottom section of the outer wing was just rocking with Hawthorn fans. It was a huge moment, huge kick, and what a great memory to look back on.
Was that his 7th? I think it was his 7th goal.
Yeah, I think so. And that was the real breakout.
Yeah. A behind for the Brisbane Lions, so it's a 4-point Bombers lead as we're...
Game's over, Clinchy.
Okay, thank you. I love how we can see what's going on in the Gabba. At the same time, I'm calling this one for you. A chance for Nash to get the clearance. Got it from Newcomb. Hand pass to Moore. Kicks Hawthorn inside 50 once more. Up Mitch Lewis. Couldn't take the mark. A chance for Finn McInnes. Little dribble kick towards the goal line. Mitch Lewis is going to finish it for his third. Right on the goal line. Just had to toe poke it across. And all of a sudden Hawthorn have opened up a handy assertion. 5-3-33 to Adelaide 1-2-8. They played 24 minutes in the opening term on ABC Sport.
He's on track for 12 at the moment. Lids, that's normally what you're thinking when you kick 3 in the first quarter. You think, geez, I could be on track here for double digits. But the one concerning thing from mine was just out of the centre square, Hawthorn player just drifted forward, and no Adelaide player was just accountable at all. They were all just ball watching and all tied in around the contest. There was no real balance from the stoppage, and Hawthorn just ran it forward. Mitch Lewis finds himself at the end of another one.
Well, Finn McInnes nearly got it through, and he's got the run-with role with Dawson at the moment, so you're on a close watch of that one. I know how hard it is to play at half-back with someone just trying to negate you the whole game. It can be a pretty lonely place at times.
Yeah, 3 touches for Dawson early stages. 3 goals for Lewis. His career best is 5. Came earlier this season against the Saints in a pretty prolific display. In the middle. The Crows get the clearance. It'll come back the other way. Newcomb now handed off to Jaff. Tries to bust one tackle. Then got through a second. crunching work there from Murray, who then got run over by Newcombe, taken high. And that will be a free kick to the Crows defender in the centre of the ground, just behind halfway. 25 points the margin the way of the Hawks. 26 minutes gone opening term. He bombs the Crows inside the forward 50. Taken by Fogarty at ground level, 30 out from goal. Jones now for Hawthorn. Kick smothered. Great work from Morris. Tries to run away. Couldn't slip the tackle. Ricochet back to him when he was on the ground. And they got on his back. So a free kick to the Hawks. Advantage paid to Mitchell.
He takes the advantage. Works it to Scrimshaw. Kicks up. And more marks on the outer wing. One-on-one's further afield as he looks at options in the corridor. Goes short to Ward as he takes the mark between wing and half forward. All of a sudden it's a congested forward 50. Looks towards Mitch Lewis in the pocket. He flies with one arm, can't take the mark. Here's Finn McGuinness once more. Dribbles it towards the goal mouth. Parnell almost collided with the behind post, into the left behind post. It's a bit worse for wear. Now I think we're just going to work out whether it hit the behind post. I think it went through for a behind, but we might do that upstairs. Do you want to give us an around the grounds, Lids? Full time at the Gabba?
Yeah, well, I think it was only 4 points of difference, but Mcavoy had a shot after the sign, popped it through, so ended up being a 10-point win for the Bombers. Big Pete Wright kicked 5.
13-12-90, the Brisbane Lions to Essendon, 15-10-100. So all of a sudden, the chance for the Lions to stay in touch with the top 3. It's now going to be a one-game gap between Geelong, Melbourne and Fremantle.
Lewis in ruck. The career high was against Port earlier this season, not the Saints. Hamill goes through the middle. Crouch tries to rip it out from the defensive stoppage for the Crows. Handball away to Berry, who launches them outside the defensive 50. Sicily got the fist in on Walker. Spilt away to Schonberg, who blasts it up the outer side wing, and Blank was the only man back there for the Hawks. Morrison now directs his kick toward McDonald, who's got it in front of the interchange gates. Right, fluoro boots for Connor McDonald as he pokes it down the line on the bounce to Newcombe, collects on the half volley, directs some traffic, goes low with the kick, tried to bounce it out in front of Kajetsky, taken by O'Brien, got horse-collared. Free kick to the Crows ruckman inside the defensive 50. Hawks by 25, closing in on quarter time.
Shot ball to Duday, who has to try and deal with that. Hand pass to O'Brien, needs a way out. Gave the hand pass to Dawson, back to Duday, hard against the boundary. Keys underground hand pass to Crouch. They found a way out in the end. Kicks up towards the wing. Miller outsized as Blank takes the mark. Quick hand pass to Mitchell, almost brought down. Good tackle from McHenry. The ball comes to half forward for the Hawks. They can't clear it though. Hamill as Kicking in danger in the end as Moore's going to take the free kick. Jess Webster on the boundary.
Yeah, concern down here for Josh Morris on the Hawks bench. He's just come off the ground. The doctors had a good look at the vision. He's in the rooms now doing a concussion test.
Sicily was floating around the back, got the hand pass from Moore. His kick is short, and Kajitsky was out of position, and Tom Duday was able to take a comfortable mark on the last line of defence.
Hawks by 25. John Peterson, Matt Clinch calling it for you on Grandstand AFL. But Delidio, Mark Murphy, your expert. Just heard from Jess Webster on the boundary telling you about Josh Morris going down into the Hawthorn rooms. Long kick out of defence for the Crows from Duday. Results in a stoppage at left half forward for the Hawks. O'Brien and Mcavoy tangle in ruck. Jones is there for the Crows trying to burst his way through the stoppage. Good tackle from Bruce for Hawthorn. Ball's knocked free. Mcavoy throws a boot at it. He can't clear it. Neither can Schonberg. Picked up by Bruce. Low kick inside the 50. The feet of Kajitsky. Wonderful gather. Handballs off to Nash. Around the body. Great team goal, Hawthorn. Connor Nash finishes off some great work. But the ball at the feet of Kajitsky was sublime. And the Hawks have got 6 in the opening term. 6-3-39 Hawthorn. The Crows 1-2-8. We're half an hour into the first quarter on Grandstand AFL.
Well, it was, wasn't it, Joel? As you called, the ability of Kajitsky to get down, win it himself, and then just feed up a nice handball. I've really enjoyed the injection of Connor Nash into the midfield for the Hawks. He's an aerobic beast. The guy stands about 194 centimetres. And he keeps it really simple as well. Doesn't try to overcomplicate things in there, do too much of the footy. Just know to play his role, tackle, chase, and then try and win some footy ball himself.
Hawks by 31 points. Back in the middle, O'Brien wins down the tap. Newcombe can't take it. Crouch tries to knock it forward. Free kick for a hold going Hawthorn's way. as Newcombe was held onto once the ball had cleared. So approaching quarter time here at Docklands, the Hawks have made a promising start as Newcombe looks inside 50, sends it long in the direction of McDonald. It's over his head. Murray dropped the mark. McDonald hand pass to Morrison, sends it long towards the teeth of goal. Finn McInnes is outnumbered 2-on-1. And in the end, Riley O'Brien's able to take the mark with support from Jordan Dawson. O'Brien with the hand pass to Dawson. Kicks out of defence. CJ's underneath it. Jaff can't take the mark. As Schonberg's there to spoil it down. And the siren sounds to quarter time. A promising start for the Hawks. They kicked the opening 3 goals of the match before Taylor Walker was able to intervene. And then the next 3 to close out the term. 6-3-39 to Adelaide 1-2-8. So the Hawks by 31 points at quarter time. 3 goals to Mitch Lewis. Individuals to Nash, Reeves and Morrison. While for Adelaide, their goal came through Taylor Walker. At the Gabba, it was the Bombers recording their 5th win of the season, 15-10-100, defeating the Brisbane Lions by 10 points, 13-12-90. Peter Wright with 5 goals and Kyle Langford with 4. Great to have your company on Grandstand AFL on ABC Radio and ABC Sport Digital.
Ever heard of Helpers High?
The satisfaction, literally, I cannot define in words.
By volunteering our time, we feed our own positive mood and boost our overall physical and mental health. To celebrate the ABC's 90th year of connecting communities, we're asking you to take the 90 for 90 pledge. Just 90 minutes of your time to help a cause that you care about.
One person can make a difference.
For more information, go to our website, ABC Gives.
The 2022 AFL Premiership season.
Grandstand AFL.
On ABC Radio and ABC Sport Digital.
O'Brien who wins it down. Still a chance for Adelaide in defence. Murray couldn't take it. Hard one to try and clear for Mitch Lewis. Eventually it comes to Reeves who jams it on the boot. It kicks the opening goal of the match. Now pass away to Jaff who reloads. High ball inside the 50. Have a fly at that. Kaczynski underneath. Comes down to the front. Morrison snaps on goal. Bounces and bounces through. Chance for Nash to get the clearance. Got it from Newcombe. Hand pass to Moore. Kicks Hawthorn inside 50 once more. Up Mitch Lewis couldn't take the mark. A chance for Finn McInnes. Little dribble kick towards the goal line. Mitch Lewis is going to finish it for his 3rd.
Ball's knocked free. Mcavoy throws a boot at it. He can't clear it. Neither can Schonberg. Picked up by Bruce. Low kick inside the 50. The feet of Kaczynski. Wonderful gather. Handballs off to Nash. Around the body. Great team goal, Hawthorn.
This is the 2022 AFL Premiership season.
On ABC Radio and ABC Sport Digital.
Quarter time from Docklands, Sunday afternoon footy. It's the Hawks leading the Adelaide Crows by 31 points, 6-3-39 to Adelaide 1-2-8. Mitch Lewis with 3 goals in the opening quarter. Matt Clinch and Joel Peterson calling the action. Jess Webster down on the boundary. The thoughts of Brett Delidio and Mark Murphy, your experts on ABC Sport.
Yeah, Clinch, I didn't really see this coming, to be honest. I thought we might get a bit more evenness in this game. I certainly thought that Adelaide would have some speed and have some real confidence coming off the back of last week. They've looked a bit shell-shocked, to be honest, early. The Hawks have come out with a bit of sting in their tail, set up the ground really defensively. The Crows just have not been able to find a target coming out of their defensive 50. Been forced to kick long a lot, and they've been outnumbered. You know, the tools for the Hawks have been doing a great job. We've already spoken of the groundwork of Ned Reeves and Kaczynski. I just feel like they're running all over them at the moment in terms of their want to get over and help at the contest initially, but then their ability to actually find a target going forward. And, you know, Mitchy Lewis has been on the end of that already. Yep. His ability to hit the scoreboard, kick 3-1 in the first quarter. He's licking his lips, but they just haven't been able to defend that high ball, Murph.
No, it's a combination of a couple of things. You made mention of the D50 exits. They just can't find a target from probably 50 to 70 out just to gain some choice in the ball movement to go, well, I can go quick here or I can go slow and work my way through. And then from the stoppage, you did mention, I think the work rate from the Adelaide midfielders probably isn't up to the standard. Hawthorn have been getting the ball forward from stoppages and then being able to get on that next chain of possession play from the forwards, creating a contest up forward. So the work rate of the Hawthorn mids has been quite strong and they're finding good avenues through goal just by the fact that they're just working a bit harder.
I think, the only avenue so far for the Crows going forward has been Tex Walker and his ability to lead up, because Sicily likes to play back shoulder where he can read the high ball coming in. So I feel that unless Fogarty can get on his bike and get involved, or some smaller forwards can actually get in, get a bit of a sniff, they're going to really struggle for scoring source. But they're being smacked in the inside 50s at the moment, 15-7.
Yeah.
So give them some opportunity. The clearances are even, so they're winning their fair share, but they're just Hawthorn's ability to go forward and be damaging going forward has been so much more superior.
They rated really poorly in a lot of those stats too, the Hawks, so they'd lost the contested possession count in their last 10 games. They've only won it twice this season. They've only won the inside 50 count once so far this season, so a couple of those things that are key measures for them. They're, in terms of what they haven't done so far this year, they've turned it around in the opening term.
And the Crows have been terrific all year with their pressure and their tackling around the contest, but I think they've probably fallen down with their balance from the stoppages this afternoon and just haven't been able to cover off outlets quick enough. So the clearances are 8 apiece at the moment, but it's just the work rate from stoppages with Hawthorn just being far superior in that department at the moment.
Before the coaches could get to the Adelaide Crows players, Taylor Walker decided that he'd pull in the group and offered a word or two of advice, with Hawthorn leading by 31 points at quarter time. Keys with 9 disposals, led with 8. Smith and Berry with 6. Meanwhile for the Hawks, Dylan Moore with 10. Tom Mitchell with 9. Newcomb with 8. Mitch Lewis with 8, including 3 goals. And the Hawks with 3 contested marks to Adelaide's 1. Second quarter set to get underway with the Hawks holding a 31-point advantage. It's Reeves once more who will start in the ruck, with Mcavoy starting in the forward 50. Up against O'Brien here. O'Brien flies early, wins down the tap to Laird. Can't get a disposal away. Sockers it to Morrison. Picked up by Newcomb. Hand pass intercepted. A chance for Laird sliding in. A pack of players where on the very bottom of that is Berry, with over the top O'Meara, Newcomb and Ward. Umpire quickly throws it up in the air. Reeves wins down the tap to Matt Crouch. Pinched by Morrison. Dribbles a kick to half forward. Brodie Smith runs onto it for Adelaide. Kicks towards Miller. A shoved underneath. Free kick against Denver Granger Barras. And the free kick going the way of Miller. Has it at the edge of the centre square. Just had to retreat the footy. So Hawks will push numbers back into defence. Puts it long towards Walker. Jaff in front. Can't pull in the mark. Over the top of it. Here's Berry, who now becomes the tackler, and the footy locked underneath Finn McGuinness, and will be balled up 25 metres out from the Adelaide Crows goal.
Reeves goes up highest in ruck, taken by Saligo for the Crows, throws a boot at it, kick ricochets around to O'Meara, who's tackled by Laird, and will have another ball up. Still 30 out directly in front of the Adelaide goal. Walker controls it in ruck, down to Jath. Fogarty applies some pressure. Dawson handball on the up, too hot for Millera. Millera spins back in to lay another tackle. Ball squirts loose to Walker. Handball centrally, looking for Laird. He got it off to Rowe. He was driven into the turf. Umpire says another ball up. So a succession of stoppages inside forward 50 for Adelaide to start this second term.
A lot of players around this stoppage as Reeves wins down the tap against O'Brien, but onto it Rowe for the Crows. Hand pass to Laird to Keys. A fend off on Jaff. Needs to find a way around Morrison. Turns boundary side. Kicks inside 50. Scrimshaw dropped the mark. Hardwick quickly with the hand pass to Sisley, who puts it 2 or 3 rows into the crowd. And Adelaide with a chance to reload and kick back inside 50 from left half forward through McHenry.
Well, good pressure so far from Adelaide. Had a few repeat stoppages inside their forward 50, so that's a good marker that they're working hard inside 50.
Got that left knee taped up, Ned McHenry. He wheels away. No one stood the mark. Kicks to full forward. Fogarty goes up and pulls in a big pack mark in the square.
Well, that's better, isn't it? Giving the kid a chance to really run and jump at it.
We know he's a beautiful set shot. He doesn't really need to show many of his skills when he kicks it through from 6 metres out. That's a great start to their second term for the Crows. Their second goal, 2-2-14. The Hawks still lead by 25 points, 6-3-39. 3 gone, second quarter.
I'm not sure what happened, Murph, with the defensive pressure on McHenry. He was allowed to run a good 20 metres before he actually had to dispose of the footy. Probably out having a shot, really, wasn't he? So
we started from about 60 out and ran to inside 50.
Yeah. And I think Harry Morrison, the offside winger there, was just falling asleep guarding a bit of space. He didn't realise that he needed to come and put pressure on, but well done to Fogarty, his ability to run, catch that at the highest point. That's what we want. Just attack the footy, mate. Take some big contested marks.
16th goal for the season for Darcy Fogarty. His career best was 24 back in 2021. Back in the middle, Newcombe trying to get the clearance. Tackled by McHenry and Berry. Can't break clear, and the umpire will throw it up just to the left of the centre circles.
Well, whatever Tex or Matty Nix has said to him, it's finally got him going here, the Crows.
O'Brien wins down the tap to Laird. Can't get a disposal away. Keys to McHenry to Chase Jones. Trying to find a way past Newcombe. Gave it to Smith. Kicked straight through the middle. Spotted up Laird. Half pass to the run of McHenry. Back inside 50. Fogarty 1-on-1 with Blank. Fogarty got a touch to it. The reinforcements arrive. Blank does it himself in the end. Got support from Scrimshaw. Hand pass to Jaff. Works it over the top to O'Meara. Back to Jaff. At left half back. Cannon into Hamill. A free kick Hawthorn's way. And McDonald might not take the advantage in the end.
So Jaff will take it from half-back. Let's go downstairs to Jess Webster.
Good news for Hawks fans. Josh Morris has cleared his concussion test. The doctor gave a big thumbs up to the bench as he re-emerged from the rooms.
Thanks, Jess. Just a matter of time for him now as Hardwick swings it across the centre of the ground for the Hawks. Good mark taken by Morrison, who outpointed McHenry. Loops it on over the top by foot to Moore, who is running through right half forward. Goes back behind the mark, 70 from home. Gets a lead to the pocket, ignores that and kicks to full forward, looking for Lewis. Worked under it by O'Brien. And robs off from fullback for the Crows. Handball to Haitley. Nurses the kick out to right half back for Millerer. Comes back inboard. Neat kick finds Smith for Adelaide.
Hawks by 25 points. Adelaide with the opening goal this second quarter. Smith short to Berry. He's trying to run past and receive the hand pass again, but that's ignored. Short to Saligo, boundary side. In front of the Adelaide Crows bench. Starting to get a bit more consistency from Jake Saligo and some of the young Crows, although that kick's not his best. This is a couple of feet outside the boundary line and turns it over. I'm just not going to compliment anyone for the rest of the day.
Leave him alone, mate.
Okay. I'll just put it back
Say
in the...
bad stuff.
Just,
and hopefully
yeah, pot shots from Clinchy.
Yeah, put it back in the kit bag. It's not working today.
Scrimshaw at half back for the Hawks. From 14 to 15, he finds Hardwick, who almost fumbled as he ran through the defensive 50 then, and then almost missed his boot as he went back to Sicily. Sicily now comes out toward Blank, who's closed down by Walker, made him earn it, and gives away 50. So James Blank will trot through the centre of Docklands. He's got a couple of shotgun runners, one of them Scrimshaw. He's got an option in Nash, drops it on the left boot. Beautiful spearing pass to Bruce, who's marked 5 in from the boundary, 45 from home, left forward pocket.
There's a nice kick on. I thought he went a bit early with that handball, almost invited a bit of pressure, but just he knew his teammate, that's for sure.
Bruce will go around the body from 45, hits the fat side of the footy, high kick to full forward in the end. O'Brien brings it down. McDonald, nice bit of roving to Morrison, to Lewis, steps through the tackle for his fourth. Mitch Lewis is having a day out at Docklands. 4 for Lewis, 6 minutes into the second term. And the Hawks back out by 31, 7-3-45 to the Crows 2-2-14. Your experts on Grandstand AFL, Mark Murphy and Brett Delidio.
It was just good work at ground level there by the Hawks, just forcing a contest. And then Mitch Lewis, I did make mention of him being on track for 12. And he's well
don't say
truly
anything, Clinchy. Don't say anything.
Clinchy, just let it go. We want to see double digits today. So just great work. On the up there, left foot around the corner. You'd love to see that.
Hawthorn by 31 points once more. Earlier today it was the Bombers by 10 points over the Brisbane Lions, their 5th win of the season. Back in the middle, Mcavoy up against O'Brien. O'Brien floats across the front, wins down the tap, but O'Meara sharked at best. Gets the clearance of the fend-off, was taken high, kicks inside 50, here's Bruce again. Lunging forward to his right, he's able to take the mark. He'll shoot from just outside 50.
That was like a quarterback to a wide receiver, wasn't it? Just put it on his back shoulder, turned around, there it was, on a platter. It was a beautiful kick coming out of congestion from Jago O'Meara. His ability just to push off a couple, break out, it's been the difference.
Now decider a few moments ago, he veers out to the right, Brewster's shot drifts left, and just can't quite hold its line. The Hawks by 32 points. 8 minutes gone, second term on ABC Sport.
Game high lead. Comeback route being run by the wide receiver in that instance of Bruce. Smith kicks in to Duday for the Crows. Now the ball in the hands of Murray. Out at left half back. Thumps it up the City side wing. The target's Thilthorpe, who spent a bit of time on the exercise bike since quarter time. Hardwick's dragged off it for the Hawks as the ball gets out the back. Berry continues to fight for it. Granger Barras is in over the top. Schonberg fires in at the football now at left half forward for the Crows. Mitchell's there for Hawthorn as well. Tries to extract it. Eventually it comes out to Granger Barras, who thumps it up the outer side wing. Kajitsky front spot on Duday. Neither could take the football cleanly. Good tackle laid out there by Moore. Really good pressure from Hawthorn. Locks the football up. And we'll have a ball up between the wing and half forward. Hawks into attack on the outer side. They lead by 32, 9 gone second term.
Well, welcome listeners who have joined us from the Gabba. Matt Clinch, Joel Peterson, Brett Delidio, Mark Murphy and Jess Webster with you. The Hawks led by 31 points at quarter time after kicking 6 of the first 7 goals of the match. A goal apiece in this second quarter so far. Hawthorn by 32 points. Throw in on the outer wing. Thilthorpe and Mcavoy. Ben Mcavoy, the Hawthorn captain, returning for his first game in 14 weeks. Just his second game of the season. Down to McHenry, who can't burst clear, and the umpire will throw it up still on the outer wing.
Crows playing with 5 forwards at the moment, investing another around the stoppage.
Thilthorpe and Mcavoy go again. Thilthorpe's on the end of the handball out toward the boundary line. Crouch it was who spilt it over the line, and a free kick going the way of the Hawks. Their fans about that on the outer side are pretty pleased. Mira spins the footy in his hands as he stands behind the mark. 2.5 kicks from home. Drops it on the boot inside the forward 50. Duday up highest. Got a hand to it. Slapped it out toward the boundary line. A throw in 45 metres out from the Hawks goal. 6 goals, 3 in the opening term. The Hawks, their best opening quarter of the season. Lead by 32 here in the second term. Joel Peterson and Matt Clinch calling it for you. It's Lydio, Mark Murphy, your experts. Jess Webster on the boundary. Thilthorpe tried to try to take it out of the ruck for the Crows. Spilled away to Morrison. Hooks it around the body toward full forward. Ricocheting ball. Ended up with Schonberg. It was a nice gather in the end. Palms it off to Duday. Kicks out to Saligo, who juggled the mark and takes it at right half back.
It's a hand pass back to Smith. Looks up towards half forward. O'Brien has a couple. Uses his frame to get rid of one. Almost pulled in the mark against Morris. He now is tackled. Not sure he got a hand pass away. Berry could have almost fallen in the back of Moore. It doesn't matter for the Hawks. They're away through Jarman Empey, through the middle of Docklands. Puts it out in front of Bruce. Chase Jones offers chase. Bruce keeps his feet. Jones lost his. Spots up Mitch Lewis. He marks in the corridor. A chance to kick his 5th before half-time.
Well, it's all experience, wasn't it? It was a dash. Initially, it was almost like Giath and Jarman Impey wanted to have a race to see who could run quicker towards their 450.
And you don't want to be a defender chasing Luke Bruce back towards goal, because just a little shimmy of the hips, he's just a class act, and he then just puts it in space for Mitch Lewis to run onto.
4 goals won so far through 12 minutes of the second term. A chance for a handful before half-time. Mitch Lewis steers it straight through the middle. 36 goals for the season. What a breakout year he's having. The 6-year Hawk who was picked up with pick 76 back in 2016. He is very much leading the way. A 38-point advantage, a game-high lead for the Hawks. 8-4-52 to the Crows, 2-2-14. All of a sudden, Mark Murphy's prediction of a handful, a dozen, could be on the cards.
Oh, Clinch, you don't ruin it for us, mate.
I know. But
don't say it.
Just want to remind the listeners, you did predict this early.
It was just that little shimmy that you spoke of, that experience of Luke Bruce. Could have been, most small forwards probably blaze away there on their left and have a shot. Get the blinkers on, but not Punky. Loves to just lay up the nice one. When you've got a man who's hot like Mitch Lewis, well, when you put it in front of him and allow him to do the rest.
So second time in his career he kicked 5. He's got all 5 in the first half here. The first time he kicked 5 in round 2. He got all 5 in the second half. So hopefully he can go on with it here, Mitch Lewis. The Hawks take it out of the middle. McGuinness to Morrison. Kick inside the forward 50. Kajitsky the target. Couldn't take it. McDonald was there trying to collect the crumbs for the Hawks. Kajitsky slides back in on the paint of the 50. Big pack around the footy. It's not coming out of there. And we'll have a ball up. Out at right half forward, Nathan Williamson tosses it aloft. Reeves brings it down for Hawthorn. Berry a clearing kick for the Crows. Up the City wing. Dawson in the pack. It'll get out the back here. Hardwick for Hawthorn. He's got plenty of time and space to work in to Granger Barras, who swings it across the centre corridor for Bruce. Outpoints Hamill pretty easily in the end.
Looks to Lewis on the lead. He lost his footing. Murray gave him a shove, gathered the footy, ran into a dead end as McDonald got him. And the Crows are going to get a free kick at half-back. It might be for the Murray tackle. So it's centre half-back. So Jordan Butt started on Mitch Lewis, but they made the change to Nick Murray, who's got the tough task for the rest of the afternoon, it might be. As Jones retreats back and then all the way to Haitley at left half-back. Come back inboard to Jones. Sort of a permanent half-back at the moment. Was a midfielder for Tassie in the under-18s. Just trying to find his best spot in this Adelaide lineup. Now to Butts at right half-back. Works it over the top to Schomburg. Hawthorn by 38 points as he kicks long down the wing. Miller of the target, had to fly against Morris, brought it down. Chance for Hardwick of the Hawks, got it back to Morris. Quick hand pass to Newcomb, turns, comes inboard. Tom Mitchell takes the mark at centre half-back.
Mitchell's got options out wide on the City side, surveys the field. Now he's got Newcomb breaking through the middle, chips it short diagonally to Hardwick. He's diagonally back into the corridor for McGuinness. So the Hawks by 38 points halfway through this second term. Little dance step from Scrimshaw, gets onto the left. Wonderful laser kick to Newcomb. Centre half forward for Hawthorn. He rolls onto his right boot, sends it to full forward. Lewis almost in the right spot at the right time. Just couldn't pull it in. It skids out of play. Deep right forward pocket. Hawks into attack. 8-4 plays 2-2, 15 minutes gone, second term.
Hawks are just playing with them at the moment. Their change of angles just causing havoc.
Opening them up, aren't they?
Thrown back in. Reeves can't get it. Tap away. Matt Crouch sharks it. Kicks up towards half-back. Thought Blank had the mark. It wasn't paid. It was touched, and Darcy Fogarty wraps him up. 45 metres out from Hawthorn's goal. The Hawks by 38.
Wayne Miller is getting an assessment down on the ground. We'll get Jess to keep an eye on that with the stoppage. Haitley wheels away with it for the Crows. Kicks outside the defensive 50. It's going to come back in. Numbers with Hawthorn. Nash, handball back to Hardwick, and now back to Nash. Lofts his kick toward McDonald at left half forward for the Hawks. On the right boot, goes inside the 50, tried to measure it for Koschitzki. It was a great gather on the half volley, hands it off to Mitchell, and now to Morrison, to Newcomb on the edge of the 50, back to Koschitzki. Gee, that's such good work. He initially gathered the bouncing ball and then quickly got on his bike, led to the right forward pocket. He'll have a shot from 45 out.
Well, and that's what will please Sam Mitchell the most, and the forwards coach, given that his ability to be involved in that initial contest, Joel, that you spoke about, but then to bounce back up and be involved in the next play as well. It's all about lead, double lead, go again as a forward to give yourself those opportunities. Now it's about finishing the work.
Kicked 5 goals, 3 against the Crows in round 6 last year, really bursting onto the scene, lines it up here, strikes it away to the left. Has it scored? No, it's hit the behind post. It's gone out of play for a throw-in.
So Adelaide having kicked 1 goal in this quarter. Tex Walker kicked their opening goal of the match. Hawthorn by 38 points, and the Hawks really pinging the ball under the roof of Docklands. Thrown back in. O'Brien from behind, thumps it to the front. Schomburg trying to run onto it in the back pocket. He gathers, runs outside the defensive 50, looks up to the wing. Walker with a couple of Hawks to compete against, and in from the side. Sicily takes the mark. Reads it so well, James Sicily. Such a great intercept marking player. Back to Hardwick on the defensive half-back line. Adelaide have matched up one-on-one apart from Sicily, so he goes short to him, still at left half-back for the Hawks.
Let's go downstairs and get an update from Jess Webster.
Yeah, as you mentioned, Joel Miller on the bench just had a structural assessment to the right knee. He's having a bit of a conference with the physios now. It doesn't look too good, so we'll wait to see what the outcome of that one is there. Meanwhile, on the Hawks bench, Josh Morris, who earlier this quarter passed a concussion test, came to the bench looking a little sore, copped a heavy knock to the back, but he looks okay. And in a nice moment, as Mitch Lewis came to the bench, he got a really nice applause by the Hawks fans, so they're enjoying his performance so far.
Why not? 5 goals in the opening half. Thanks, Jess. Hawks sent it up the line. It's come back for the Crows toward half forward. Mitchell slides through, trying to get the handball up toward Jaff. Could only skidded out of play for a throw-in right in front of our broadcast position here on Grandstand AFL. Hawks 8-4-52, Crows 2-2-14, 18 minutes gone, second term.
There's one of our own, Ian Burrows, doing the throw-in, part of the ABC Asia Pacific Network. Over 350 games as a boundary umpire. As the Crows kick inside 50, Laird's kick is picked off by Hardwick, switches it out to right half-back. Sicily takes the mark up towards McDonald. He's outnumbered. Hamill got there. Good tackle from McDonald, but it just lingered. In fact, it might have been Morrison who got him over the shoulder. And a chance for the Crows through Hamill to bring it in the middle of the ground for Smith to Crouch. Hasn't had a lot of the footy, Matt Crouch. His 7th disposal coming up through the opening quarter. And 18 minutes. Finds Keys. Back to Hamill, who's worked his way to left half forward. Inside 50. Down low for Walker. He takes the mark in front of Sicily. Wasn't all that pretty, but eventually found a way into a dangerous set of hands. Tex doesn't want to waste any time. Steps out to the right. Played on. Flared it out to the left and out of bounds on the full.
I'm sure he needed to do that. He had that distance easily covered in his own leg. He should have just gone back and had the set shot.
Second time he sprayed one so far. Just a couple out of bounds on the full. Hawks bring it back in. Hardwick to Morrison. Vanilla Products kicks outside the defensive 50 to Jath, who eyes Taylor Walker and says, I will burst away from you, Tex. Goes down the city wing and then turns it over straight to Brodie Smith. He's got a bit of dash of his own. He shows them a clean pair of heels. He rockets it to half forward. Phil Thorpe out in front of Sicily. Can't take the mark. Sicily does the roving. Taken in the tackle by Phil Thorpe, but got taken high in the process. And so James Sicily, who's having a terrific season, will be in the All-Australian conversation coming back from injury last year. Kicks, touched off the boot, taken by Keys. Handball to Laird for the Crows at left half forward. Now to Haitley, to Crouch, back to Haitley. Hooks it around the body, high kick inside the 50, shallow entry. Fogarty's out, thumped away from him. Over the line, 45 out from the Crows goal, a ball in.
I would love to see Riley Philthorpe just take control of that situation v Sicily. He's got 14 to 15 centimetres on him. Be the big bloke, get him out of the way and then just take a contested mark. But when you get outdone by a 6'2" guy, it makes you think, just compete a bit more, big fella.
Thoughts of Brett Delidio on ABC Sport. Hawthorn by 38 points. Newcombe spins out of traffic. Hand pass towards half-back, where it's picked up by Haitley. Hand pass to McHenry to keep it in along the boundary line. He did. Got it to Laird. Back to McHenry. Can he finish? No. Smothered out of play. As Morris was able to track his kick and just spoil it at the crucial moment.
It's a great run and dash, though. That's what they need at the moment, the Crows. That's a sort of space that you want to see young players taking in front of them. When you do get that opportunity to run and carry, that's what we should do.
Hawthorn 8-4-52 to the Adelaide Crows 2-2-14. Tex doing the ruck work as it's brought down to the front. Crouch trying to link up with Haitley, straight to the boundary line. Umpire says throw it in. Now to throw in at left half forward with the Hawks by 38 points. Earlier it was the Bombers, winners by 10 points over the Brisbane Lions. Final match of the weekend coming up from Perth. It's the West Coast Eagles taking on Carlton.
Joel Peterson alongside Matt Clinch to call it for you on Grandstand AFL. Brett Delidio, Mark Murphy are experts with Jess Webster on the boundary. Tom Mitchell at the stoppage, tackled by Crouch. Newcombe goes in. He's dragged down by Laird, so all the tough customers are in there doing their thing. Locked up at left half forward for the Crows. Just the one goal here in this second term for the Crows, 2 for the Hawks after Hawthorn kicked 6 in the opening term. Tackle slipped high on Haitley there. No, he's been caught holding the ball by Josh Ward, the first round pick for the Hawks. Back into the team after a little bit of time away from the senior side. Kicks into the middle of the ground and finds Mcavoy. Now off to Hardwick, to Jath as the Hawks generate some dash through the middle. He's held up on the back edge of the circle. Now handballs back to Sicily, all the way back to Granger Barras at half-back for Hawthorn.
Looks up towards half forward, puts it out in front of McGuinness. It bounces awkwardly for him. Dawson lined him up, looked to lay the tackle and then follows up again. Hand pass out in front of MP. Was he dragged down when he didn't have it? By Parnell, a chance still for the Crows. Schomburg to Dawson, drawn down, holding the footy. Hawks' pressure has to be admired. A couple of repeat efforts there and Adelaide weren't able to withstand it.
Dawson had his chance there to really put one on Finn McGuinness, didn't take it and then got run down by him. There's double whammy for him.
McGuinness takes the free kick, sends it inside 50. Reeves is there, O'Brien as well. Reeves pinches it off the hands of O'Brien. Tried to almost claim the mark. The umpire will ball it up. 15 metres out from the Hawks goal. Mitch Lewis is on the bench at the moment, so 5 to his name and won't add to that for the moment. Reeves won it down towards Keys. It spills back to Reeves, trying to link up with O'Meara on all fours, tries to knock it out. Laird for the Crows. Hand pass to Duday. Works it to Haitley to Matt Crouch in the back pocket. Sends it up towards Thilthorpe. He and Jaff engage in physical contact, and in the end, it spoils off hands and out of play for a throw in. Jess Webster on the boundary.
Wayne Miller is back out onto the field, which is good. It didn't look good there for a couple of minutes as he was getting some treatment from the physios, but he's been given the all clear and back out in the field.
Thanks, Jess. Tossed back in, out of sight. The opposite side of the ground to where Jess Webster's located for us here on Grandstand AFL. Nash goes through for the Hawks, knocked it to Newcomb, who bursts away, and now the handball back to Nash, who's through half forward, gets his kick away inside the forward 50. Kajitsky's up, can't mark. Dawson's there, so too Parnell. Handballs toward the boundary line. Bruce chases it. Impey can't keep it in. We'll have a throw in 35 around from the Hawthorn goal. Hawks with 6-3 in the first term, 2-1 here in the second so far. The Crows have added one straight to their quarter-time score, and the margin's 38 through 24 minutes of this second term. O'Brien in ruck for Hawthorn, takes it out, handball's clear of the contest. Nash, he takes it, tackled by Haitley, not going anywhere. Ball up at right half forward for the Hawks.
Inside 50s, 25-14, Hawthorn's way. Contested possessions also their way as well, 65-60 from the stoppage. It comes the way of Newcomb, blazes away inside 50 and misses everything out to the right. The Crows thought that might be deliberate, wasn't paid.
Finn McGuinness all over Jordan Dawson, isn't he? Very rarely do you see the forward with the arm across.
Thrown back into play, Hawks into attack, Reeves beautifully down to Impey, who dodges and weaves, kicks towards the teeth of goal. In two minds was Butts, who had Brodie Smith there. Bruce gets in the middle, his kick is smothered by Smith, ricochets to McGuinness, he's stripped of it. Ball spills clear, Kajitsky over the top, and Brodie Smith over the top of him.
And Brodie Smith is the spare, mate, so go and win the footy for us. Don't wait for the guys one-on-one to win it.
Disappointing first half from the Crows, all told. O'Brien slaps it down. Crouch waltzes through the defensive goal square untouched. Loops the handball to Haitley. His kick smothered. Dangerous territory for the Crows now. Butts left it behind. And they spin through. Good tackle from Reeves. Not rewarded. And a ball up at full forward. He dragged Hamill down before he really had a chance to get rid of it. Hawks by 38 points and camped at full forward with a stoppage. Reeves slaps it out of ruck. Crouch is there. Handball to Duday for Adelaide. Now to Haitley, flicks the handball on over the top. Keys couldn't collect it cleanly, knocked it out toward the boundary line. It'll go out again. The Hawks fans liking what they're seeing here in this first half. It's been a pretty dominant performance from them.
Hawks by 38 points. Toss back into play. Ed Reeves resting at full forward as Mcavoy does the ruck work. O'Brien worked him underneath. Gains the footy, kicks up the wing. Hawthorn have the loose number. Scrimshaw runs onto it. Good support from Sicily. Got it to Hardwick. Backpedaling. Underground hand pass around Thilthorpe. Scrimshaw didn't deal with it. Tex pinches it back for the Crows. His kick is smothered by Tom Mitchell. Great sort of 1%er as Ward's hand pass picked off again by Tex. Adelaide with a firing hand pass from Walker to Keys. They've got one out the back. Thilthorpe marks on his chest. Left forward pocket only about 25 metres out from goal.
Good recovery in the end, wasn't it? It was a nice smother from Tom Mitchell initially. I think it was Saligo might have done his work and was on the way out, but good recovery. Nice little touch kick from Keys to pop it over the top to Thilthorpe working forward.
Just the 3 disposals so far this afternoon for Riley Thilthorpe. Got a chance to kick Adelaide's third goal of the match. Steps out on the angle, snaps across his body and does it successfully. Thilthorpe's first. He joins Tex Walker and Darcy Fogarty, so all three of the tall forwards are on the board, but they trail Hawthorn by 32 points, 8-4-52 to the Crows 3-2-20. We play 27 minutes second term on ABC Sport.
I just think after half-time, the Crows need to probably go back to just playing 6-6-6. They're investing another number up at the stoppage from their half-forward line, just giving Hawthorn exactly what they want off the back of the stoppage. They've got their winger and another half-back flank sitting loose at the back of a stoppage, just creating a lot of run and the outnumber just initially from the Hawks' point of view. So I think after half-time, just say righto to your Adelaide mids. Let's just get out after the ball at the man, be hard around the contest, and let's back our forwards in 6 and 6.
Thoughts of former captain of Carlton, Mark Murphy, with you on Grandstand AFL. Ball's laid down in the middle, just within the circle as Mcavoy got the hand to it. Bursting through from the clearance is O'Meara. Low kick inside the forward 50. Kajitsky couldn't take it cleanly. He's been good at that so far today. Hamill's pushed off it for the Crows. Comes bouncing back to him. Handball to Berry, handball to Laird, handball to Butts, back to Laird by hand. Still at half back Adelaide. Laird directs his kick up the line. It's absolutely smashed away from Philthorpe by Blank. Gained 40 metres for Hawthorn. Straight back to Butts. Handball to Laird, now to Haitley. Parnell's in trouble, ducked the head, went to ground. Just got it away, but it's taken by Nash for the Hawks. Great tackle, Hamill for the Crows. Strong stuff, locks up Bruce. Right on the paint of the 50, a ball up, Hawks into attack.
That was Laird's first kick for the quarter. He's had 12 touches, that was his first kick.
Crows have won the hit-outs, 17-10, but it's been Hawthorn who've won the clearances as Haitley from the tap. If O'Brien puts it into the crowd, 3 or 4 rows back. So the clearances, Hawthorn's way 12-11, including 3 centre bounce clearances in this second term. The Hawks by 32 points. Chance to send them back inside 50 through Connor Nash. Looks at options. Lewis offers the lead. He puts it on his head. O'Brien flew from behind. Impey front and centre. It opened up in front of him. He turns on his right and snaps it through. There's a couple of appeals that it might have touched the Crows' hand on the way through. But Jarman Impey doesn't mind. He's celebrating at the moment as the Hawks restore a 38-point advantage. 9-4-58 to Adelaide 3-2-20. 29 minutes, now half an hour gone in the second term.
I like the look of Jarman Impey in a forward pocket. He's just got great feet, doesn't he? He's got great balance and awareness of bodies around him, and just not to kick a drop punch, just take an extra half a second and put it on the check side, banana, which Lids loves.
Your favourite, not mine. I'd go on the left.
It just showed a little bit of extra class in there, and that's just something that he offers differently. And I think the Adelaide players here are calling for a touch ball, but
at least this time they've lined up in the centre of the ground.
They have.
There are some teams that seem more notorious for calling for every ball to be touched.
I think he's touched his boot. He couldn't possibly overturn that.
There's no clear evidence to suggest it'll get overturned when the goal has been called by the umpire.
Nathan Williamson's getting set to bounce it down to the middle. Jarman Impey kicks his first after missing a couple earlier in the game. Good Goulburn Valley product, Lids, out of the Shepparton Swans.
Close to home.
Then Mcavoy in the middle for the Hawks, taken away by Berry, who evades a couple, kicks inside the 50. Blank again is there to knock it away from Philthorpe. Good defensive work from the mid-season draftee. Spills to Haitley, off to Duday for the Crows, kicks inside the 50. Jaff read it well, it was an awkwardly floating ball, and CJ chopped it off in defence for the Hawks.
Switches it towards McDonald. McHenry made contact, works him underneath. A chance for the Crows. Pennell in the pocket, kicks to Philthorpe. Cannon into the fence with Sicily. Philthorpe landed rather awkwardly as well as he slowly gets to his feet, just on that area where the artificial sort of grass takes over. Seems to be okay now. Hawthorn by 38 points. Thrown back in. Walker does the ruck work inside the Crows, attacking 50. Mcavoy down. And the siren sounds for half-time. Another good quarter for the Hawks. They kicked 3-1 to Adelaide's 2 straight. And really have dominated proceedings in this opening half. Hawthorn 9-4-58 to Adelaide 3-2-20. The Hawks by 38 points at the main break. Mitch Lewis with 5 goals, including 3 in the first and 2 in the second. Individuals to Morrison, Impey, Nash and Reeves. Meanwhile for the Crows, their goals have come through Philthorpe, Walker and Darcy Fogarty. Hawks by 38 points at half-time. The thoughts of Brett Delidio and Mark Murphy with you on ABC Sport.
Well, Murph, it's been a bit lopsided, this one, hasn't it? And purely off the back of the Hawks' ability to win it and then get on the outside. Their stuff's been good to watch. And if you're a Hawks supporter, you'd be very pleased with what some of your younger players have shown, but also what some of your older players are still willing to show as well. I've loved the work of Sicily down back. I've called it a couple of times. He likes to play that back shoulder. When the Crows have had some good ball movement, they've been able to use Tex going forward.
That's been rare though, hasn't it?
Well,
good ball use going forward for the Crows. They're just butchering it everywhere at the moment, and it's just not giving their forwards any sort of opportunity to work into the space or just be given an easy possession up forward. They're almost putting it on the top of their heads from time to time, and even just missing easy handballs, which then have to force the player who's receiving the ball to have to stop and prop and then go to a safe option. So the skills of, they're probably not at the level really at the moment. And Hawthorn, conversely, are hitting their skills really well. Yeah, well, I feel like probably the middle part of that quarter, we certainly were watching the bottom of the play. It was not a lot of clean stuff, fair bit of scrappy ball movement, but the Crows, they're working their backsides off down there in their D50 to try and win it out. They need a key target, a big forward, to represent them down the line, and I just feel like at times that, whether it's Stilthorpe or Fogarty or Walker, they're struggling to pick it up quick enough, and therefore they're getting smothered in and around the footy. Just do your work early, boys. Get on your bike and get out there, be that presence. Even if you can't mark it, that's where I'd like to see Stilthorpe just be that big man, be a bit of a bully, push over the little bloke. Gias spoiled him, Sicily spoiled him, but be the guy that's 200 centimetres and 100 odd kilos, push him out of the way and be that presence that your team's crying out for. And create a contest, and then if it worst comes to worst, you get another stoppage and you set up further out from goal. But it's either been Tex or Stilthorpe down the deepest, which I wouldn't mind putting like a Malira deepest, open it up, and then having their tools for the next contest for those D50 exits, because you did mention it then. They had a few times where they were running out of D50 and they got smothered or pressured because they didn't have that tall option to go to. They didn't have that bailout option that they need. I think having a quicker, fleet-of-foot player further away from goal than having one of your key targets in that range from 30 to 40 away from the contest at least gives you a contest. And at the very worst, if they halve it or they lose it, they're forcing pressure. But at the moment, the Adelaide defenders are just kicking out to extra numbers of the Hawks, and the Hawks are just bringing it back in. Well, they're really either really tall and really slow, or they're tiny but really quick. They haven't got that in-between guy, have they? The George Dawson size.
Yeah, so Shane McAdam's sort of one who they sort of used at full forward as sort of a medium, but he is a small forward. But the other point you made, Murph, is that sort of all their small forwards push up the ground, so they don't really lock the ball inside their forward 50. It's pretty easy for the Hawks to transition it out. Yeah, and I've seen it in teams that I've played at. Your smaller half forwards are getting out to put pressure on, which is what you want to do, because when you're trying to obviously stop the opposition from scoring and getting up and trying to pressure the opposition winger or the half back sitting off the back of the stoppage, and then that doesn't allow you to put pressure when the ball does finally get forward for you. So it's almost a case of just saying, well, if you want to have one sitting out the back of the stoppage, we'll allow that, but we want to have six forwards and at least try and get a contest out the back of that, and rely upon your midfielders forcing pressure on that winger, whoever that is, out the back of the stoppage.
And just a small point to illustrate that, the Crows haven't scored from general play so far in this game. So 20 points, 5 scoring shots, all of them have been set shots. So no scoring from general play whatsoever. So the small forwards aren't getting involved. Let's be honest.
And from general play too, they're just finding it so hard to find a mark, aren't they, from their D50. They just, at very best, they're getting another stoppage, but we're seeing probably more so just the intercept possessions from the Hawks.
Half-time at Docklands, the Hawks leading by 38 points. Rory Laird leads the way with 20 disposals, including a couple of clearances and a couple of inside 50s, but has struggled to get a lot of that into meaningful possession, with Keys with 16 and Haitley with 13. John Newcomb leads the way for the Hawks with 18 and Hardwick with 17. We'll pause from Docklands for the moment and get the latest from the ABC Newsroom.
Hello, this is ABC News with David Rowlands. The US has appealed to Sri Lanka's politicians to act promptly to resolve the country's economic crisis. An announcement that the Sri Lankan president, Gotabaya Rajapaksa, would step down on Wednesday came after protesters seized his official residence and set the Prime Minister's home on fire. The International Monetary Fund says it's reaffirmed its support to Sri Lanka, adding it planned to continue technical talks with the central bank and the finance industry. Voters in Japan are choosing members in the upper house of parliament in an election overshadowed by the assassination of the former Prime Minister, Shinzo Abe. The BBC's Rupert Wingfield-Hayes has the story.
It's not clear what effect Mr Abe's killing will have on the election, but it was clearly on everyone's mind as voters began going to the polls this morning. If the LDP wins big, it will strengthen Mr Kishida's ability to push through his key policies, including a doubling of defence spending from the current 1% of GDP to 2%. That is a huge increase, but there is growing support for a stronger military here. Russia's invasion of Ukraine is one factor, but it is China's growing power and assertiveness that is really driving Japan's sense of unease and vulnerability.
The Victorian Ambulance Union has described the pressure on paramedics as soul-destroying after Ambulance Victoria called another code red overnight. The alert was issued between 2 and 4 o'clock this morning, with the community urged to only call for an ambulance in the case of an emergency. It's the 7th code red the health services had to call this year. Union Secretary Danny Hill says the pressure on the state's healthcare system is forcing paramedics to work beyond their means.
One crew I spoke to, they started their shift at 5 p.m. and they didn't get their first meal break until 5 in the morning, so 12 hours without taking a break. So they're just exhausted, they're burnt out, and I think they're being asked to absorb a lot of the work from other parts of the health system that are also not coping.
The Federal Health Minister is defending the government's decision not to continue financial support for workers who contract COVID-19. The pandemic leave disaster payment provided up to $750 for people who tested positive that didn't have access to sick leave, such as casuals. The former government set an end date of June 30, and the current government stuck with that timeline. Unions are warning it will lead to more people becoming sick, but Mark Butler is standing by the decision.
We can't continue to pay emergency payments forever. We have a budget that we've inherited that is $1 trillion in debt, that has eye-watering deficits as far as the eye can see, and we simply don't have the financial capacity to continue what are emergency-style payments forever.
The WA Premier is encouraging eligible Western Australians to get their 4th COVID vaccine, while ruling out the possibility of making it a mandate. The Australian Technical Advisory Group on Immunisation last week updated its advice, recommending the 4th dose to people over the age of 50 to protect them from hospitalisation and severe illness. Those over the age of 30 have also been advised they can elect to receive the COVID winter booster, which can be given 3 months after a 3rd dose. Mark McGowan says he encourages it, but it won't be mandated.
We won't be doing that, but I'll encourage anyone over the age of 30 as of tomorrow. You're eligible for a 4th jab. Please take the opportunity. It helps protect you and your family and your loved ones.
Thousands of revellers have gathered in the Spanish capital Madrid for its famous Pride Parade. It's considered to be Europe's largest Pride event, and this year marks the return of full-scale celebrations after 2 years of COVID-19 restrictions. So many revellers showed up that police had to delay the start of the parade for security reasons. These English visitors say they're excited to be celebrating after such a long time away.
We came 2 years ago, and it was really good. 3 years ago, and it was, it was sort of really good.
One of the biggest parades in Europe, isn't it?
Tennis Australia boss Craig Tiley has declared Nick Kyrgios ready to go ahead of today's men's singles final at Wimbledon. Kyrgios is competing in his first Grand Slam decider and will meet Novak Djokovic, a champion at the All England Club, on 6 previous occasions. The Australian has the benefit of a few extra days' rest after his semi-final opponent Rafa Nadal withdrew with injury. Tiley has told Channel 9 that has to count for something.
Nick's playing great tennis. He's in a good frame of mind. Saw him today, and he's ready to play. He's had that extra day with not having to play the semi-finals against Rafa, and you would expect that would help, but you never know. He'll have the natural nerves going in. Novak's done this quite a few times.
And you're up to date with the latest on ABC News.
If you love sport, we've got the podcast for you. ABC Sport Daily, it's your daily sports conversation.
And his car actually torpedoed through the aluminium crash barrier and exploded into a fireball.
Nick made a comment the other day. He goes, when I was 19, I didn't play Rafa's reputation. I just played Rafa, and he beat him that day at Wimbledon.
Brittany Carter, you're our favourite goal defence. Thanks for your time.
Thanks. It's better than what we've been used to.
ABC Sport Daily. Find it wherever you get your podcasts.
Got a minute? Dip into StoryStream for quick, easy, real stories from across the country.
I was only 11. Apparently I was qualified to be the translator.
When you're part of a team, you do it because you love it.
Even now, I just get a little bit giggly thinking about it. Oh, it's just so exciting.
Continuous, skippable Australian stories. Exclusive to the ABC Listen app.
I was going to say something else then, but anyway. Blip.
Look for StoryStream on the home screen of the ABC Listen app.
The 2022 AFL Premiership season.
Grandstand AFL.
On ABC Radio and ABC Sport Digital.
Left knee taped up, Ned McHenry. Wheels away. No one stood the mark. Kicks to full forward. Fogarty goes up and pulls in a big pack mark in the square. We know he's a beautiful set shot. He doesn't really need to show many of his skills when he kicks it through from 6 metres out. Bruce will go around the body from 45, hits the fat side of the footy, high kick to full forward in the end. O'Brien brings it down. McDonald, nice bit of roving to Morrison, to Lewis, steps through the tackle for his fourth. Mitch Lewis is having a day out at Docklands.
Berry could have almost fallen into the back of Moore. It doesn't matter for the Hawks. They're away through Jarman Empey, through the middle of Docklands, puts it out in front of Bruce. Chase Jones offers chase. Bruce keeps his feet. Jones lost his, spots up Mitch Lewis. He marks in the corridor. Chance for a handful before half-time. Mitch Lewis steers it straight through the middle. Connor Nash looks at options. Lewis offers a lead. He puts it on his head. O'Brien flew from behind. Empey front and centre. It opened up in front of him. He turns on his right and snaps it through.
This is the 2022 AFL Premiership season.
On ABC Radio and ABC Sport Digital.
Half-time from Docklands as round 17 of the AFL continues. It's the Hawks leading the Adelaide Crows by 38 points. 9-4-58 to the Crows, 3-2-20. Matt Clinch and Joel Peterson calling the action. Jess Webster down on the boundary. Mark Murphy and Brett Delidio are your experts. Earlier today, it was a fifth win for the Bombers in season 2022. 15-10-100, defeating the Brisbane Lions 13-12-90. Peter Wright booting 5. Carl Langford with 4. B on the SMS, 0437 774 774. So to ask, is it still mathematically possible for the Bombers to make the 8? No. What are they, 5 wins? You need 9, 10 to be in the 8. I think the Tigers have got 9 for the moment, so don't think so, B, with 6 rounds of the home and away season to go. Stan in Hobart asks, hi team, any issues with the jumper clash? It seems a bit odd that there's a lot of gold and both.
I'm not having any troubles, but I'm not down there at ground level either, so couldn't tell you.
The Hawks are wearing their Indigenous jersey, Adelaide as well, given it's NAIDOC week. Bill asking, there seems to be a lot of talk about the Crows' progression, but it seems thin under experienced pressure and defence.
Well, it looks thin today, doesn't it? They
usually defensively.
Well, usually something that when we spoke about it prior to the game that they've been able to hang their hat on is their pressure and contest work. Today they've sort of been almost outworked at the stoppage and from it. So their skills have always been a bit of an issue. But yeah, they just look a million miles off it at the moment. But Hawks, are, to their credit, are playing well and forcing errant kicks by the way they're setting up as well.
0437 774 774. If you've got a comment or want to pose a question to Brett Delidio or Mark Murphy on ABC Sport. The game after hours, of course, takes place from Perth. It's the West Coast Eagles taking on the Blues. There's a late change there with Matthew Owies and out for Carlton, and Josh Honey comes in. So Will Hayes is the medical sub for the Blues and Greg Clark for the West Coast Eagles.
Yeah, the mid-season, not bad.
Yeah,
Right.
Debrew is a sub, unfortunately, but Matty Owies has had a bit of an issue with his calf, so maybe something's flared up there again in the warm-up, not too sure.
Just get the all-inside knowledge there from Murph. What are you on the board down there back at the Blues, are you?
No, I used to play there for a few years.
Oh, I know that, but geez, in regular contact, I couldn't tell you the last thing that happened at the Giants or the Tigers.
Nah, well, I'm only fresh out of it, though, Lid, so give me another 6 months. I'll probably lose contact with everyone, but still hang out with a few every now and again for the old coffee or beer when it becomes available to a few of the current players.
Just playing that beautifully, Murph. Won't be too long. You can roll out the back in my day sort of stuff, but you recently retired, so you're still in touch with it. In the cricket, Sri Lanka trail Australia by 102 runs on day 3, with Australia posting 364. Sri Lanka in response 3 for 262. Ooh. Angelo Matthews on 49. Chandimal on 29.
What did Smith end up with?
145 unbeaten.
Well done.
Looks a good wicket there. Do you reckon they'll get a result?
Well, if the weather stays all right, they might, but it'd have to start turning sharply late in that test, I would have thought. That's my cricketing prowess showing
like
through.
I'm with you, Lee.
What do you play? Cricket, did you? I did, yeah. I had to make the choice.
What do you play? Glenn Maxwell over Mitch Stark? He was bowling leggies and offies and medium pace and everything, trying to convince Pat Cummins that he was a bowling option, potentially number 8 to bat.
Oh, imagine that. Glenn Maxwell coming in at number 8. Over Mitch Stark. I like Mitch Stark, no doubt. Like, he bowls absolute smoke, but I think the wickets just don't offer enough, and if they're going to turn, that's the way I would have been going.
We spoke yesterday, Clinchy. There's plenty of sport on across the course of the weekend. The Sandfield's on today, so the Crows are in action in the Sandfield. They're playing against the Double Blues at Unley Oval. 7 minutes into the last quarter, Sturt 12-4 to the Crows 10-4. Notable in that for Adelaide, Fisher Mackessy's kicked 3 goals and Elliot Himmelberg has kicked a couple. Lockie Scholl's got a goal and 20 disposals to his name. Billy Frampton has 18 disposals playing across half back. And if you're a Supercars fan, a very interesting end to race 20 up in Townsville. Anton De Pasquale chasing down Shane Van Gisbergen. This has only happened just moments ago. Had a massive lunge at the last corner and turned Van Gisbergen around. De Pasquale crossed the line first. Cam Waters was third. Van Gisbergen snuck into second, but you'd imagine that they'll take that away and that'll go the full post-race investigation, maybe the fisticuffs, the whole lot. So there could be some action in the Supercars. Van Gisbergen, the championship leader, won race 1 yesterday, and I think he will be awarded the victory in race 2 today as well.
You didn't strike me as a V8 supercar rev head, Joel, but that was a very comprehensive rundown.
Yeah, I'm a bit of a tragic for it. It's F1. I'll stay up and watch the F1 tonight as well. I'll probably watch the F2 and the F3. I think the power's out at home, actually, so I probably won't be watching any of it, is what the word that I'm getting.
Just head down to the pub then and watch it. Probably 11 o'clock start tonight, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
Austria, isn't it?
Yeah, Austria.
Max Verstappen last night in the short sprint.
Yeah, so Max Verstappen won the sprint yesterday. A bit of infighting between the Ferrari teammates Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz. So they were second and third. Leclerc then Sainz. George Russell was fourth. Sergio Perez made his way through to fifth. No luck for Aussie Daniel Ricciardo, who had a pretty tough time of it in the McLaren. I think he finished 12th in the end.
So, is that crap car or is that not?
It's a bit of both.
Skill level.
These days, it's a little bit of both. I think he's dropped off the pace. When you compare him to his teammate Lando Norris, who's a young British driver who's doing some great things, he's, I think, something like 13 or 5 spots behind him in the championship and just hasn't got to grips with that McLaren. A very different car from the Renault he drove before that, so it took most of his 2 years at Renault to get up to speed with that. Now the McLaren's a different beast altogether, so it's a very challenging time for the West Australian with a deal to run, a year to run on his deal at McLaren.
Yeah. Do you reckon he leaves? I don't really reckon he stays it out next year and see what happens.
I don't think the driver market's going to be all that hot. Piastri's the one, of course, the Australian from Melbourne, the F2 champion, who's sort of being floated, maybe taking Nicholas Latifi's spot at Williams, but I just don't see where they go. There doesn't look like there's that many moving parts in the F1 sort of driver market at the end of the season. So maybe stick with him for another year and then look at maybe a Pierre Gasly who looks for a move from AlphaTauri at the end of the next season. But it's a bit of a worry for Aussie Dan.
You know who's rubbing their hands together? The Netflix production company who are following all the drivers. Plenty of controversy, as there's a documentary on the tennis side of things. So Jelena Rybakova winning last night against Ons Jabeur in the ladies' final. Will you stay up and watch Nick Kyrgios and Novak Djokovic tonight?
I definitely will. I love watching Nick Kyrgios. You just never know what's going to happen. And I think is Netflix following him as well throughout the All-in-One Club as well the last couple of weeks. So let's hopefully that ends in a good story for the Aussie. For most of us, I'm not sure most of us actually. There's probably quite a few people that dislike Nick, no doubt, of the Australian public. So
I think it's a straw poll. Now, if you struggle to stay awake, it will be on your radio tonight. So in all capital cities apart from Sydney, ABC local radio will carry the BBC call of the men's final between Novak Djokovic and Nick Kyrgios. So on your radio, if you're like me, you don't mind having it on in the background. It
doesn't quite strike the same as on the cricket, on the radio at the tennis. You know, it doesn't. It doesn't seem to get me to sleep. That's for sure.
And the Wallabies lost last night as well. Enough said on that. Second half underway. Hawks by 38 points. And we're going to have another go at it. That bounce flared out to the right, not the best. So a ball up to start the second half is Joel Peterson.
It was rather anticlimactic as Reeves and O'Brien crash into each other and Mitchell rips it away for the Hawks, bombs it inside the forward 50. Smith comes in over the top, can't take it with him. Hamill's dragged in the tackle, almost got caught. Kajitsky clean hands to Moore, went to ground. They dive in his back. Umpire waves play on. 30 out from the Hawthorn goal. Immediate pressure for the Hawks here to start. Impey dives on Butts. Strong tackle. And a ball up. Hawks by 38 as we turn to this second half.
A lot of numbers around this stoppage as it's tossed in the air. O'Brien against Reeves wins it down to Laird into a dead end as Bruce and Mitchell lays the tackle.
Great tap out by Reeves to start the third quarter, wasn't it, to Mitchell?
Reeves once more rises over the top, wins it down, might follow up his own work here, can't squeeze a kick forward. And Haitley quickly with the hand pass to Laird, clears it to half back, but nobody there for the Crows. Jaff should run onto it, gathers, hand pass to Moore, hard against the boundary, runs away from Smith, partially smothered by Dawson. Does enough to see it out of play, and a boundary throw in.
I don't know how Adelaide can't have at least one man out there for a dump kick from a stoppage.
Exactly what we spoke about, wasn't it?
So they had zero basically representation. They had two Hawthorn blokes standing out there were first onto it.
The McGuinness and Dawson matchup's an interesting one. You identified it pretty early in the piece, Lids, and it's probably been a good result for the Hawks early doors as Dawson lays the tackle here.
Absolutely. You quell his influence, his metres gained and ability to get on the outside. It's one of the score sources, I reckon, for the Crows.
7 disposals, just the 3 kicks for Jordan Dawson. Laird at the stoppage, prolific again. Disposal number 22, gave it up to Schonberg, kicks long down the wing. Fogarty's up to meet it. Handball back in field to Keys. Collects on the bounce and gives it to where it came from. Looping handball from Fogarty across to Berry at left half forward. Options inside the 50. Looks for Walker. Takes front spot on Sicily, who reaches across and thumps it away from him. Morris is taken in the tackle by McHenry. Good pressure from the young Crow. And a ball up 45 metres out from the Crows' goal in the left forward pocket.
Tossed in the air. In the end, Reeves taps it down boundary side. It rolls out in front of Ben Keys and Dylan Moore for a boundary throw in.
Love to have the ball in Fogarty's hands a little bit more too. Really clever handballs that set up teammates going forward in that last passage of play.
Toss back into play. Hawthorn by 38 points. Reeves in front. Walker worked him underneath. Got the hand pass to Laird off balance. Kicks across the face of goal. Fogarty back with the flight. Just dropped it at the last moment. He tries to skirt away from blank. Hand pass away. Haitley screws it back towards the corridor. McHenry outside. O'Meara knocked it down. Chance for Keys. Would you believe it? What a finish. Was just able to jam it onto the boot in congestion and finish with a touch of class. First goal of the second half going the way of the Crows. It's Hawthorn by 32 points. 9-4-58 to the Crows. 4-2-26.
He started this quarter well. Been involved a couple of times already. Misses that easy set shot early in the piece. And kicks that rather difficult one. Well done, James Blank, just to stay involved in that contest and not allow Darcy Fogarty to take that mark. But get a contest again. Sharp hands from Rory Laird. Nice snap from Arthur Shelby, a.k.a. Ben Keys.
Bit of peaky blinders work.
Have a look at that haircut. Don't you think it looks a bit like Arthur Shelby?
Correct. Love it.
Hopefully, Ben Keys' business is a little bit more straightforward.
Yeah.
Riley O'Brien's in the middle of the ground here for the Crows, reaching over the top. There is Ben Keys. Shelby's back at work. Handball's off to Berry. Kicks inside the 50. Fogarty was 3 back, couldn't take it. Hardwick got dragged down by Dawson. Clear free kick. And Blake Hardwick will take it for the Hawks after Miller returns the football to him. Crows fans not overly impressed with that. Just chips at the 15 to the top of the defensive goal square for Jaff. Now across to Sicily, number 2 for marks and for intercepts in the competition coming into today. He launches it up toward the wing on the City side. Almost the mark to Morrison. Did enough, according to the umpire. He'll take it between the wing and half back.
Blues have slammed on the first 3 goals against the West Coast Eagles. We'll take you there after this. Morrison up to half forward. Duday in front. Marks on his chest in front of Reeves. Kicks out to right half back. Now Haitley feeds the hand pass to Brodie Smith around the outer side boundary. Got it to Keys and then back to Haitley, turned it over. Morrison takes the intercepting mark in front of Smith. Hand pass to Mitchell. Works it to O'Meara. Out now to Bruce between wing and half forward. Turns onto his left hand side. Kicks into the corridor and Duday with another intercept mark. Feeds the hand pass to Laird through the middle of Docklands to Schonberg, nowhere to go to Dawson, found a way past McInnes, hand pass back to Schonberg, put the head down, couldn't get past Nash, he's gone, holding the footy, and the Hawks will take it just short of centre half back inside the centre square at Docklands.
Nash has got runners everywhere. He had Moore and Hardwick lining up for it. Goes to the former by hand, who spears his pass down the line looking for Lewis. 5 goals in that first half for Mitch Lewis. Now Hardwick, handballs back to Moore. Vacant goal mouth, looks in that direction, sends it low to full forward. Smith. Desperate defence for the Crows, lunging in front of Bruce to slap it through for a rush behind. And it's the first score of the second half for the Hawks. Margin is 33.
Two-day long out of defence, up towards O'Brien, but it's a 3-on-1. Jaff takes the mark for the Hawks, spots more free, can't take the mark at the top of the 50, Berry spoiled it down. McHenry can't gather, Hamill can, but O'Meara's got him. Still a chance for the Hawks. It spills out to Berry, he bounces off an opponent. Hand pass chopped off by Mitchell. Now it's Laird's problem. His hand pass to O'Meara was taken high. And Hawthorn will take it 55 metres out from goal. Jagger O'Meara with great intent, and the Crows just couldn't quite clear it. Thought about the hand pass to Morris running past. Waits for the lead to present. Where's Mitch Lewis? Puts it in that direction. He flies, spoiled away by Murray. Front and centre. Good pickup by Schomburg. Hand pass to Hamill of the Crows. Chips it to Millerer, who marks in the left back pocket.
So Millerer moves it on for Adelaide. Measures the kick. It was perfect. Just the distance to Keys. And now on the top to McHenry. He's got Walker alone at left half forward. Doesn't go there. Sends it centrally to Berry, who's got Laird running alongside. Berry turns infield, sends it in the 50. Walker's got 2 to beat and standing his ground in front. Good mark taken by Scrimshaw.
Just didn't put it in the right space that Tex wanted. He wanted it out towards the right forward pocket, but went more corridor and was easily intercepted.
Well, Scrimshaw's kick was awkward for Jaff. Gets it back by hand now. As the former Gold Coast son comes across to Sicily, who connects at the defensive 50 for Hawthorn.
Sends it to Mcavoy, all on his own on the wing. He's got his fellow ruckman Reeves pushing forward. Can't quite move it that quickly. As he pushes back behind his mark and looks at options in the corridor. Call to play on, so he's going to go back to Sicily. Part you don't see on TV is the repeat leads that Tex Walker offered and was ignored, and then the kick missed him by 20 metres. Inside 50. Sicily to Jaff, on half-back, turns with intent into the middle of the ground, spots up O'Meara, who marks on his chest. He's got Ward and McDonald pushing forward, kicks towards Mitch Lewis, it's 2-on-1, O'Brien dropped the mark, McDonald lays the tackle, not sure he got a hand pass away. Now it's Brodie Smith's problem as he's tackled by Impey and Lewis. The ball up 35 metres out from the Hawks' goal.
Must have been a real lack of voice there because O'Brien was just, sitting in the hole, should have taken an easy mark. One of his defenders came and spoiled him.
Needed a bit of chat in defence there, the Crows. Reeves knocks it down to Newcomb, not going anywhere. Ball up inside forward 50 for the Hawks. 3 goals in that second term for Hawthorn. The Crows adding 2. Margin 33, early stages, third quarter on Grandstand AFL. At the stoppage, Schomburg, handball on the up to Berry. Now to Parnell, who wheels around, backpedals, then kicks outside the defensive 50. Oh, McHenry went up in the pack, took it off Phil Thorpe and pulled it in. Good mark from Ned McHenry. He's now going to roll onto his right boot, send it up the broadcast wing. Walker in the pack. He and Phil Thorpe raffle it, and Walker says, that is mine.
It's not.
And no, the umpire says, sorry, Tex, give it back to Riley. He handballs off to Dawson. Dawson measures it beautifully to Fogarty, who marks right on the chalk of the 50 out at left half forward. He's good for the journey. He rolls around onto the right boot, sends it to full forward, won't have the carry. And it's thumped through by McDonald for a rush behind. Margin 32, 9 minutes gone, third term. Hawks still in charge.
And that's why you sit on someone like Jordan Dawson. That kick was A1, wasn't it?
At Perth Stadium, it's the Blues 4-2-26 to the Eagles. Yet to score, 18 minutes gone, opening term there. Long kick from Hardwick out of defence, into the middle of the ground. It spills down to Duday. Impey careful not to get into his back. Now Moore's thrown to the turf. And the umpire will have to ball it up. Schomburg laying the tackle. Between wing and half forward for the Adelaide Crows. Hawthorn by 32 points. O'Brien taps it boundary side. Ward's there first. Matt Crouch lays the tackle. And the footy's locked underneath those two.
I feel he might start getting a bit more attention, Dawson, by getting the run with roll because he's so dangerous by foot.
Might be a little bit of a blueprint. It's been in great form too. Mitchell extracts it for the Hawks. Away to O'Meara to the run of Impey through right half forward. Tries to step around Duday. Curls the kick inside the forward 50. Lewis might end up on the end of it. But's just deflected it enough out toward the boundary line to go out for a throw in.
I reckon against the teams that they're relatively similar on ladder position, he will. But I think the higher teams will be like, wow,
we'll back ourselves
we'll back our system.
30 metres out from the Hawks' goal. Tossed back into play. O'Brien wins it down in ruck. Smith a clearing kick for Adelaide. High into the centre of the ground. Blank reaches over. Thilthorpe thumps it away. Jath took it. Handball to Nash. Now to Moore. Run down by Berry. Terrific tackle. Moore got the handball away inside the forward 50. Scooped up by Smith, and now Saligo hems the boundary line with the kick. Nice collect from Keys. Handball to Berry. The Crows away.
Now pass to Thilthorpe. Kicks over the head of McHenry, who is down by Sicily. So Sicily will race back there first. Gather on the defensive 50. Trying to sidestep McHenry. Turns and kicks to Scrimshaw. What a great battle. James Sicily showing why he's an All-Australian contender. Comes inboard. Not the best kick in the end from Scrimshaw. And Dawson locks it up as John Newcomb had nowhere to go.
It was a great play from Sicily. It wasn't just brick-walled. McHenry running back to try and get some space.
Do you have James Sicily in your All-Australian squad, Lids?
I certainly did, Clinchy.
So that's one you got right.
Yeah, absolutely.
You got lots of feedback. Newcomb with the hand pass to Ward. Kicks towards half forward. Butts couldn't take the mark. It does spill to Smith. Short pass to Crouch. Not 15. Somehow got it clear to Brodie Smith, being tackled by Newcomb. Links up with Keys to Laird at half forward. Kicks for O'Brien. This time back penalty. He takes the mark. Has it at left half forward. Fogarty leads into the pocket. He tries to dink it over the top. Can't quite take the mark. He almost juggled it. Did a lot with Blank right there on his tail. Gets the hand pass to Saligo. Short to Laird at full stretch. Can't take the mark. Granger Barras worked it to Ward. He kicks inboard and Newcomb takes the mark.
Game of inches for the Crows forwards at the moment. Newcomb shoots it inside the defensive 50 to Morris. Morris for the Hawks. Dangerous kick. Rising is Duday. Goes up over the top of McDonald and pulls it in. 70 from home, comes inboard to Berry at centre half forward, off to Parnell, who fakes one way and then kicks into the pocket. He wanted Saligo, it'll bounce out in front of him just inside the 50. A throw in, left forward pocket, Crows into attack. They trail by 32 points, 13 minutes gone here on Grandstand AFL in the third term.
In the West, it's the Blues 4-3-27, leading West Coast yet to score. Time on in the opening term there. We'll take you there at the completion of this game. Hawthorn by 32. Walker doing the ruck work at half forward. Slapped it down. Morris slides in. Laird lays the tackle. Tex has another go. Got it to Thilthorpe, to McHenry, all under pressure. Holding the ball. That's a hot whistle. And Hawthorn will take the free kick on half back. Scrimshaw to take it on the defensive 50. Hawthorn by 32 points. Mitch Lewis with 5 goals in the first half. They've really dominated since the opening quarter, where they kicked 6 goals to 1. Short to Impey, who has it at the right half back line.
Directs some traffic and scoots away. Drops it onto the right boot, sends a high kick up the wing. Lewis front spot, brought down by Murray for the Crows. Crouch does the roving, handball to Saligo. Off to Laird, loops the handball over the top to McHenry. Has to be clean and quick, and was. Found Berry by hand. Berry to fall forward. Blank stretches out, knocks it away from O'Brien. Terrific work from the Hawks defender. And now Granger Barras in the back pocket. Handball to Blank. Got caught by Fogarty. In trouble. Gone. Had one win in the defensive 50. Couldn't win the second contest. And Darcy Fogarty will take it from the right forward pocket, 20 out.
Well, just about to give him a wrap. He's been fantastic today, Blank. He's done a lot of things really well, but unfortunately there, Fogarty was just too clever and just watched the hips and tackled him really well.
So tight angle for Darcy Fogarty. 20 out, but he's only a couple of steps inside the boundary line in the right forward pocket. Has one to his name already for back-to-back goals to start this third term for the Crows. Only just snuck it in for a minor score. Crows 4-4-28, the Hawks 9-5-59. The spread's 31 points, 14 minutes gone in the third.
Interesting seeing Sam Mitchell on the bench doing a lot of his coaching face-to-face this afternoon. Some instructions to Finn McGuinness. Jaff was involved, Tom Mitchell just in the ability to break some tackles in the middle of the ground. Hardwick short to Sicily. Marks of the Hawks in the right back pocket. Sends a long ball up towards the wing. Kajitsky in the pack. Clears him and Murray. A chance for more. Just cuts through traffic. Did that so well given the pressure. Got it to Scrimshaw through the middle of the ground. Hamill peeled off. Picked it right against Bruce. To Gathers. Gets the hand pass away to Parnell. Now to Matt Crouch on the wing. Dinks his kick over the top and Butts takes the mark.
Measured it well. Butts has got it right on centre wing broadcast side. Had a tough time of it against Lewis in that first half. Kicks inside the forward 50. Thilthorpe got a run and a jump and clutched it. 45 out. maybe just better than a 45-degree angle to the left.
It's a good strong grab, wasn't it? Leeds have been calling for it today, but it was actually just a perfect kick, put out in space for the big fella just to run onto and take it out at the highest point.
It's a hard matchup, isn't he? 200 plus centimetres. Once he does jump and launch and extend at the footy, good luck trying to stop him. A bit like the King brothers. They're just so big and long, but this is the next bit of it. Got to finish your work.
5 goals this season for Riley Thilthorpe. Yet to kick 2 in a game. He won't do it with this kick. He's got 1 already. It's gone right to the behind line. Mark's been claimed by Walker. Umpire here says that was over the line, though. And so another minor score for the Crows makes the margin an even 5 kicks through 16 and a half minutes of the third quarter.
They've had a good quarter, the Crows, but haven't been able to capitalise. The Scrimshaw's long kick in. Ward couldn't take the mark. Hardwick trying to clean it up. Kicks a long ball around the wing. Bruce underneath it. Flying back with the flight was Kajitsky. Trying to run onto it as McDonald. Tucks the footy under his arm. His kick, though, is an up and under kick. It's over the boundary line. Hamill racing after it just to make sure it was. Claims the mark at left half back over the boundary line. Comes inboard to Parnell. He's going to retreat back. And Murray has it at the top of the defensive goal square. Switches it out to right half back. Having to wait a long time underneath it with Rowe. And it's spoiled away by Mcavoy, but he had the mark. Quiet afternoon for James Rowe. His first touch coming up of this third quarter. Just the 4 disposals for the match.
One of those small forwards for the Crows that's struggled to have any real influence. Kicks up the City side wing. Front of the pack was Berry, who was up highest, knocked it down. Tackles laid by Laird. And the ball up on the AFL logo out of sight. John Peterson and Matt Clinch calling it for you on Grandstand AFL. The Hawks and the Crows under the roof at Docklands. Brett Delidio, Mark Murphy are experts. Jess Webster on the boundary here on Grandstand AFL. Hawks still well and truly in control of this game, lead by 30 points. Saligo slides in from the stoppage. Got it to Crouch, handball to Laird, thumps it inside the forward 50. Thilthorpe again! Read it well in flight, clutched it to his chest, centering kick, turns it over. Let himself down with the delivery. Ward intercepts and outlets to McDonald for the Hawks.
Had Miller and Schomburg on, missed both of them as the Hawks work it through McDonald. Up to O'Meara, kicks for Bruce, can't complete the mark. Duday spoils it down. Hamill over the top to Miller, back to Duday, dead end. Hand passes past Jaff, sliding in. Duday has another go at it and comes out to Haitley, nowhere to go as Bruce lays the tackle. And a few Hawthorn fans like that as they lean over the fence and offer a word or two of encouragement.
Just not doing the simple things well enough at the moment, the Crows. Easy handballs they should be hitting, but not quite hitting or not giving it. Just put pressure on the Hawks. They've had all the momentum so far this quarter, but just not making the most of it.
Hawks by 30 points. O'Brien down to Crouch. Hand pass to Schomburg. Releases Brody Smith off halfback. Long kick towards Thilthorpe. Was he held by Blank? He was. Over the shoulder. And this time, surely Riley Thilthorpe will take the shot himself. Only about 25 metres out. Pretty much directly in front.
Well, someone's spoken to him at half time, haven't they? Because he's come out and he's been a different player in his front half. He's presenting, giving himself so many more opportunities.
Good use of the body there, wasn't it? Just worked Blank underneath the ball.
Yeah, nervous position for Blank to be in.
Forced the tug on the jumper.
He's hit goals in 5 of 7 games, as Joel may mention, but it's always been just the 1 goal. So Riley Thilthorpe for his second, and more importantly for the Crows' second of this third term. He comes in and bangs it through. Straight into some of the Crows cheer squad behind the goals. And all of a sudden, Adelaide closed the gap to 24 points Hawthorn's way. 9-5-59 to Adelaide 5-5-35. So the Crows are 2-3 to Hawthorn's 1 behind in this third term, which is now 20 minutes old.
They've had a good quarter, haven't they, the Crows? They've upped their pressure around the footy, but they've been able to get some faster ball movement coming out of their back half. I feel like the Hawks are the ones at the moment that haven't been able to, break that centre-half forward area. They're continuing to break down. Duday and Smith giving them some really good rebound off there. Hamill's had a couple of good touches. I feel like the Crows they've just got to capitalise here, get another quick one if they can.
Brett Delidio alongside Mark Murphy, your experts on Grandstand AFL. First time all day the Crows have kicked back-to-back goals. Their 4th and the 5th here in this term. The Hawks yet to get one. They might get one here as Newcomb rips it away from the middle, pumps it inside the forward 50. Empty! rides the elevator inside the forward 50 and plucks it out of the sky. Terrific mark. 45 out, 45-degree angle right of centre.
It looked like he was out of position there. It looked like the ball was going to travel over his head by a few metres, but how's that leap on him? Yeah.
Just elevated, didn't he? He's already had a sider from here too, I think. So interesting if he can do the same that Mitchie Lewis did second time round, knock it through the middle.
Same place, same end. Can Jarman Impey provide the same results? Starts right, works back, not quite enough draw on it. Second minor score for the term for the Hawks, 9-6-60. They lead the Crows, 5-5-35, 21 and a half gone, third term.
Meanwhile in Perth, quarter time there, the Blues 5-4-34. West Coast not scoring in that opening term. Charlie Curnow with a couple. Crows through Brodie Smith, comes back into play. Long ball towards Fogarty, he's outnumbered. It clears him and Granger Barras. Scrimshaw picks it up, kicks inboard to Moore. It's pinched by Millera. Hand pass to Fogarty. He's got Keys running hard at half forward. Can get onto it, he can't. And getting back. Well, great work in the end by Josh Morris. He got a shove in the back after he was running back with a flight. And Ben Keys has given away 50 in the process.
He's arguing the point that he didn't hear the whistle.
Yeah, kicked it off the ground.
They just didn't need to go quick there, the Crows. They had the turnover by Malia taking the intercept mark and then handballed on quickly and just didn't give his forwards enough opportunity to get back and create some options up ahead of the ball.
Josh Morris, the South Australian, has had an eventful day. Had to pass a concussion test and then got a corky to the back from Wiley O'Brien. Kicks up towards Mcavoy, can't take the mark, trying to palm it down to Bruce. 2-day for the Crows, to a stationary Matt Crouch by hand to Laird. It opens up play for Parnell, kicks for Tex in the middle of the ground.
And now he gives it a return serve to Parnell, who's got a runner out wide. Saligo, Smith is closed down, didn't hear the footsteps. Nash came cruising on up and grabbed him. Wins a free kick for holding the ball. And Brodie Smith might be left wondering what more he could have done. Jake Saligo might be left wondering why on earth he didn't get the football out wide. More now for the Hawks inside the defensive 50. Just about sums up their day, the Crows. Swings it across the back arc now to Jath, who's out at left half-back 40 from his defensive goal. Backpedals off the mark, sends it down the line. Scrimshaw's found some space. Goes up, knocks it down to himself in the end. Handball back inboard. Parnell knocks it back toward the boundary line. Saligo's on the end of it. Now Jath, handball inboard. Nash to Moore under pressure. Got it through to Morris. Goes into the centre, finds McDonald.
Feeds the hand pass away to McGuinness, who looks out to the broadcast side. His kick is over the head of Ward, but he's got enough time to run back onto it. Jones tries to corral him, chips it over the top to Impey, who marks on his chest. Wants to come back into the corridor to Finn McGuinness, who takes the mark on the AFL logo. Looks up inside 50. Reeves has gone forward, puts it towards him and Mitch Lewis, who goes upstairs but can't take the mark. It clears the back of the pack. Now there might be a push here. It's going Adelaide's way. And Riley O'Brien to take it in the left back pocket. Hawthorn by 25 points.
You usually got to make a touch on the ball, don't you, when you jump on someone's shoulders.
Get within 5 metres, it'd be good.
5 weeks. I never had that to shoot.
Lewis is having fun out there with 5 goals to his name so far. Long kick out of defence for the Crows, taken by the Hawks. Hardwick to Morrison, inside the 50. Bruce couldn't take the mark. McAvoy's there to do the roving, throws a boot at it, pushed off it. Nash picks it up, dragged into the turf by McHenry. Ball spills free. Mitchell goes in for the Hawks. He's tackled. Umpire says ball up.
Really hunting in numbers at the moment, the Crows, aren't they?
The tackle pressure and rating has gone up a hell of a lot. It's putting the Hawks under a lot of pressure.
25 points the margin. Hawks in control. 25 minutes gone, third term. Reeves at the stoppage for Hawthorn. High kick inside the 50, marked by McDonald, just inside the arc. 49 metres from home is Connor McDonald. He handballs off to Scrimshaw. He loads up, goes long and away to the left. Minor score makes the margin 26 late in this third term on Grandstand AFL.
Haven't kicked a goal in this third term. The Hawks 3 behinds to Adelaide's 2-3. As the Crows bring it back into play through Brodie Smith to Crouch. Into the left pack pocket for Tom Doedee. Acting captain this afternoon in the absence of Rory Sloane. Kicks up towards the wing. Tex Walker up high. Landed awkwardly. It clears him and Hardwick gathers. Hand pass to Tom Mitchell. Cuts around McHenry. He's doing some good chasing. Back to Hardwick, trying to link up with O'Meara. His kick is smothered out of play by Tex Walker, who seems to be okay after that awkward landing. Right in the middle of the back. Sort of at the top of the buttocks. That's going to hurt tomorrow.
Just trots away, does Tex. Tossed back in right on the AFL logo. O'Brien knocks it down. Taken by Schonberg. Bounces awkwardly over the head of Millerer. Granger Barras is there for the Hawks. Handball to Scrimshaw, now to Jath, who comes bouncing off half-back. One bounce through the centre, a second for CJ. He steadies, he looks inside the 50 and whacks it a mile past any of his teammates. He put it straight over the head of Lewis. And getting back to take a good defensive mark was Murray. And the late opportunity goes begging for Hawthorn. So after a dominant first half, it's a goalless third term for the Hawks. They added 3 behinds to their halftime score. The Crows kicking 2 goals, 3. But it is still very much the brown and gold in control of this one at three-quarter time. 9-7-61 to 5-5-35. The margin 26 points as we turn for home. Mitch Lewis has 5 goals in that first half. Morrison, Impey, Nash and Reeves with goals for Hawthorn. For the Crows, 2 to Riley Thilthorpe for the first time this year. Singles to Ben Keys in that term, Taylor Walker and Darcy Fogarty.
Didn't touch the footy in that third term, Mitch Lewis, after kicking 5 in the first half. The Hawks by 26 points. Earlier today, it was the Bombers by 10 points over the Brisbane Lions. 15-10-100 to the Lions, 13-12-90. The Lions with 9 changes with injury and health and safety protocols. So the Bombers recording their 5th win of the season. Peter Wright with 5 goals. It means there's now a 1-game gap between the top 3 teams, Geelong, Melbourne and Fremantle. So the 4th placed Brisbane Lions. And in Perth, where we'll take you next, it's the Blues 5-6-36. Leading the West Coast Eagles yet to score, although Jack Darling might have just changed that with a goal in the second quarter. It's all unfolding on Grandstand AFL on ABC Radio and ABC Sport Digital.
When I'm 90.
Teenager's going to be riding hoverboards probably.
When I am going to try and break a world record, I would get people to do all my work.
You know, I'd want to be in a movie. The next Chris Hemsworth.
I would love to have at least 78 grandchildren.
At least 5 grandchildren.
What's the world going to look like? I don't know. I don't know if I want to know.
I reckon we'll still be best friends when we're 90.
Happy birthday, ABC.
Yours for 90 years.
Everything I've overcome, I'm feeling really, really proud of myself and the team and the level I'm playing, and feel like I'm probably playing some of my best tennis.
Tune in tonight as Nick Kyrgios plays off in the Wimbledon men's final. Can Kyrgios prove all the doubters wrong and claim his first Grand Slam title? Live coverage of every moment from 11 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time on ABC Radio and ABC Sport Digital. The 2022 AFL Premiership season.
Grandstand AFL.
On ABC Radio and ABC Sport Digital.
Blair off balance, kicks across the face of goal. Fogarty back with the flight, just dropped it at the last moment. He tries to skirt away from Blank. Hand pass away, Haitley screws it back towards the corridor. McHenry outside, O'Meara knocked it down, chance for Keys. Would you believe it, what a finish. Crouch, hand pass to Schonberg, releases Brody Smith off half-back. Long kick towards Thilthorpe. Was he held by Blank? He was. Over the shoulder. So Riley Thilthorpe for his second, and more importantly for the Crows' second of this third term. He comes in and bangs it through.
This is the 2022 AFL Premiership season.
On ABC Radio and ABC Sport Digital.
Sunday afternoon footy, three-quarter time from Docklands. It's the Hawks leading by 26 points, 9-7-61 to Adelaide 5-5-35. After this match, we'll take you to Perth Stadium. It's the Blues 5-6-36 leading the West Coast Eagles 1 straight 6. Second quarter action there. Let's get the thoughts of our experts, Bart Murphy and Brett Delidio.
Well, they worked their way back into the game there. The Crows, they were fantastic around the contest, but they also, I thought they were better away from the contest. They actually provided more options for their teammates. I think in the first half they weren't probably setting up in the way in which they should have, and it probably goes hand in hand with the fact they were just getting a little bit touched up at the stoppage and from it as well. But they started to make use of their forwards and started hitting up, and they changed angles from time to time. It just didn't give Hawthorn the same look in which they were having in that first half. And I think the Crows in their first half were just going along at basically all costs and just playing to the hands of the Hawks. And then they went short, used the hands, changed of angles, and their pressure rating was just through the roof then, wasn't it, Lids?
Yeah, it was. Their forwards actually started to work and get into good positions that they could be involved. I think, they won their fair share, but they also challenged the Hawks in terms of their pressure in and around the contest. But for mine, the Hawks had already bolted, really, hadn't it? Once the game it's been knocked over in that first half. They'll give it a shake, I think, here in this last quarter. They're only 4 goals down, but tell you what, they want to polish up a fair bit on their skills and their ability to hit targets. I think they're over handballing a little bit, and one of the key culprits, I feel, is Rory Laird in there. He refers pressure. Yeah, you've got a touch, but he doesn't go forward. He puts it to someone else who's then under the pump, who has to go backwards, and it just keeps flicking around, or a bloke who gets tackled, So look to step through. I know he's only a little bloke, but step through that initial tackle and see whether you can get out the front of the stoppage or the clearance or whatever it is, and go forward, give your forwards that first opportunity.
Yeah, and I dare say Sam Mitchell's just giving a little bit of a rocket to his team. He had them all in very tight there for an extended period of time throughout that 3-quarter break. So I think he'll be pretty disappointed with that third quarter that he saw from the Hawks. They were sort of beaten up around the contest, and he'll ask for a big response in this final quarter to run away with this victory, which they've been the far superior side today. I think they just they sort of went to sleep a little bit then and allowed Adelaide to get their pressure game going.
Well, they lost their balance, I feel, and that was their forwards probably getting up a little bit too high. Didn't have anyone to really kick to. Ned Reeves was forced to be the centre-half forward at times. So, if they can get that better aligned and still continue to win the clearances, they'll finish off with a 8 to 10 goal win.
And young Nick Murray's been pretty good since going on to Mitch Lewis, hasn't he?
Hawthorn by 26 points as we head into the final term. Reeves wins down the tap against O'Brien, but O'Brien sharks a kick forward. Good volley inside 50. Hardwick tackle by Dawson, who's gone forward. Rowe lays the tackle, can't rip it clear. Scrimshaw stands up in the tackle. Hand pass to Tom Mitchell, works it back to Granger Barras, and now to Jaff. Looks out to left half back. How quick is Jarman Impey? He skirts across the turf and takes the mark at left half back. Looks up towards O'Meara. He's got better positioning and takes the mark over the top of Berry.
Goes back behind the mark. Surveys the options. Eventually just kicks an awkward ball down the line. It was an awful ball drop. Put it on the head of Reeves and Lewis. Neither could take the mark. There is Murph's man Murray. Got it out to Duday. Now around the corner. Schonberg's kick left a little bit to be desired. Good tackle though on Jath, who picked the football up pretty cleanly. Then Nash handballed it. Berry was back in there. The Mafra product lays a good strong tackle. And we'll have another ball up. Centre wing broadcast side. No change to the 3-quarter time score. A minute gone the fourth. The Hawks by 26.
Reeves down to Ward for the Hawks. High ball towards Mcavoy. In from the side was Brodie Smith. Spoiled it down. Berry trying to gather, but Ward shoves him over the boundary line. Were you the type of player, Murph, when you were interviewed about potentially coaching post-career, gave a similar answer to Rory Sloane? Probably not for me.
Who, me? Or
yeah, was that sort of when you were playing, you thought coaching was the furthest thing from your mind?
Well, I see how much they do, the assistant coaches. It's a tough role, so certainly.
Dawson from half-back for the Crows, kicks up towards half-forward. Hawthorn have the numbers. Scrimshaw over the top of the footy, can't knock it clear. Morris has a go, picked up by Rowe. A whistle as he kicks inside the 50. Fogarty got rid of an opponent illegally. And it's going to be a free kick to James Blank. Another product from Box Hill. 16 players they've picked up since 2000. It's been such a handy addition for the Hawks as they work it out of the defensive 50, and Connor Nash has the footy.
None more successful than the man who was maybe in charge of picking them over the last year or so in Sam Mitchell himself. Nash from a standing start inside the defensive 50, hoists it up the outer wing. Reeves got there. Mcavoy, he's tackled by Duday. Ball's not coming out. Ball up. Interesting to hear Ben Mcavoy say he had some nerve pain with the neck injury that he had, and he actually couldn't lift much in the gym. He was sort of lifting just the bar with no weights on it, which he said was a really odd experience. For some of us, we can really relate to that. Others can't, Lids. Ball goes up, comes straight back down, another ball up.
I heard the boys would give him a fair old ribbing for that too. It's been embarrassing for the big fella.
Certainly courageous though, running laps with the neck brace on.
Absolutely.
O'Brien gets it forward to McHenry, trying to get the hand pass away. And Jaff didn't stand. He's trying to reach across and get a hand onto the hand pass from McHenry. It's a tough 50-metre penalty because...
Well, I'm not sure he didn't actually move his feet whatsoever. He probably just put the hand up to stop the handball going over his head, and I think he can do that, surely.
You can wave your arms as much as you like. What is that for? Catch-up mode must be on, is it? I'm not sure.
Playing a game of Freeze Master.
Mario Kart.
Any other video game you want to roll out? A chance for Ned McHenry. All of a sudden, Adelaide can kick 3 on the trot and close the gap to 20 points. And McHenry does just that from 25 metres out, directly in front. All of a sudden, the Hawks, who dominated proceedings in the opening half, have come to a standstill. Adelaide 6-5-41 to Hawthorn 9-7-61. We played 3 minutes in the final term on ABC Sport.
Well, I didn't think this, probably 10 minutes into the second quarter, where I thought Hawthorn would probably... It was just a matter of by how much, really, at that point in time, and that was probably after Mitch Lewis kicked his 5th. But since then, they've basically just stopped to a walk. And I think Adelaide have obviously upped their pressure and their work from stoppage, but there's still a lot of time left in this game. It's only 20 points the margin, so they'd want to finish off this game quite strongly, Hawthorn.
Crows haven't scored less than 54 points all season. First goal of the day for Ned McHenry. The Crows have got the last 3 of the ball game, all 3 since half-time. Laird with the clearance at the stoppage here, runs out to the middle, the give and go with Schonberg, and then the give again. Schonberg kicks over the top, too hot for Keys, skittled Nash, Impey's there to run it down. He got rammed down by Jones, and then McGuinness had to step through a couple. It's not pretty footy at the moment. His kick bounces across the defensive 50, and Cecily injects a little bit of class into proceedings. Hits Jaff, who's off and bursting away from Butts, gets to centre wing on the outer side, kicks to the edge of the 50. No one there. Berry takes a mark over his head for the Crows.
Looks out towards left half back. Spots up Brodie Smith, comes inboard to Keys. Ben Keys ignored Smith running past as he pushes back behind his mark. Chips inboard for Jones. Back edge of the centre square. If he wants to switch play, Schonberg's free on the broadcast side. Missed him with the kick, but he has enough time to run back onto it. At right half back, Mitch Lewis corrals him, turns and comes inboard. And Murray takes the mark. Looks into the corridor. Brodie Smith kept running, eventually does get the footy. As it just to the left of the AFL broadcast logo. Looks to veer out to the right and kick inside 50. Sets it towards Rory O'Brien. Couldn't take the mark. He now becomes the tackler. As the footy locked underneath him and Hardwick.
Again, just a lack of talk, wasn't it? 2 Adelaide blokes spoiling each other, this time inside 50.
Ball down from Reeves. It's nice work. Mitchell clearing kick. High footy on the head of Lewis. O'Brien right on the 50. Awkward ball drop. Goes around the body in the end to fall forward. Getting upstairs was Miller. Couldn't take it. Jath ripped it away. Handball to Sicily, who bangs it outside the defensive 50. Butts is there. Kajitsky's there with him. Now the support comes from Soligo. He's tackled. He might be in trouble. Umpire says ball up.
Well done, Kajitsky. Outnumbered. Did enough just to create that contest. That's exactly what we've been asking for from the Crows big men. Just give a contest and allow your boys to set up behind the ball.
In Perth, the Blues leading by 24 points there. Second quarter action will take you there after this game. That clearance hard up against the boundary, so the umpire will throw it in. 7-6-48 the Blues to the West Coast Eagles 4 straight 24. So the Eagles able to get a couple of goals after being held goalless in the first term. Thrown back in, Reeves beautifully over the back to Newcomb. Stood up in the tackle, hand pass to Mitchell. Back to Morrison, dribbles a kick around the wing. Kajitsky tries to come up and meet it. Butts uses his body to clear a path for Berry. He runs out of room and Connor Nash tackles him out of play. Do you think Hawthorn can play 2 ruckmen with Mcavoy and Reeves for the future?
Oh, I don't know. It's not exactly the most mobile.
No.
It's certainly a query for Sam Mitchell and the coaching staff as to what they get most out of it.
Here's Reeves, who wins it down. Mitchell on the end of it, couldn't take it cleanly. Morrison, now Impey, steps one way, gets back on his right boot. High kick to half forward. Kajitsky in a wrestle on the edge of the 50, couldn't take the mark. Ricochet away to Jones for the Crows. Keys, a handball mid-air to Laird. Now back to Parnell, who can steady with ball in hand. Direct his kick down the wing on the left boot. McHenry venturing into the unknown. Got a bump from Sicily after he marked it. Will be 50 and some afters. Taylor Walker's up there to remonstrate with Sicily. Sam Frost said Taylor Walker was a pretty friendly bloke before the game. I'm not sure he's so friendly right at the moment. And Ned McHenry will be jogged all the way inside the arc. Kicked one in that third term. He's got another opportunity here.
Like Ned McHenry, he just adds a bit of spark, doesn't he? Looks like he's always buzzing around. He looks like he'd be a bit of a pest, no doubt, in the change rooms, I reckon, as well. But just showed great courage there to go back with a flight.
Handball's off to Walker, who sets sail from long range. Gets the Bronx cheers from the Hawks fans. It's away and not going to make the distance. Hardwick, disposal number 29. Through the traffic to Jaff. The Hawks away off half back.
Ward trying to sidestep around Rowe. Squeeze the kick up to Nash at left half back, looks up the wing, not a lot of options, so comes inboard towards Impey, held his ground well, and was able to bring it down against Parnell. McInnes kicks it forward, a chance for Kaczynski, no one between him and the goal mouth. Smith offers chase, he dodges and weaves, doesn't want to take him on, squares it into the corridor, great kick to O'Meara, who kept tracking down the corridor. He marks 30 metres out directly in front.
It was great composure, wasn't it? He probably had every right to maybe kick a little dribbler for goal, but just put on the brakes and just waited for his teammates to run forward towards goal and found O'Meara directly in front from about 35 out.
I reckon if that was his direct opponent, a bigger bloke, he would have taken him on, but because it was a small half-back, he said, oh, maybe I'll just go back inside.
All of a sudden, the Hawks haven't kicked a goal in the second half. Footy in the hands of Jager O'Meara. He comes in and stands up and delivers. Hawthorn with a steadier to extend their lead back out to 26 points, 10-7-67 to the Adelaide Crows, 6-5-41. 9 minutes gone, final term. To think that Hawthorn had 9 goals to 3 at half-time, and since then, only the Crows have kicked 3 goals until now.
Well done to Hawthorn there, but I think it's just a missed opportunity going back to that set shot on goal from Ned McHenry. He's probably 40, 45 out.
Makes a distance, doesn't he? I don't think you need to handball that one.
I think Paul from Tex asking for it.
I think it's definitely on Tex asking for it. I think you'd love your senior leader just to go, righto, Ned, go back and slot it for us here, mate. Go through your routine rather than calling for it and having a shot from 50, 55. Back in your young fella to kick it from 45.
Ball back in the middle. After the Hawks break the run of 3 straight Adelaide goals, and O'Meara, the goal kicker, is just waltzing through the centre of the ground, kicks up toward half forward. Kajitsky slides out, can't take it. They dive in on top. There'll be a ball up right on the edge of the 50. 26 points the Hawks lead. Led by 31 at quarter time, 38 at the half. Been in their control for most of the game. McDonald now is in there for Hawthorn. He can't wrench it clear, and right on the front edge of the centre square, we'll have another ball up as Nathan Williamson scoots in to toss it aloft again.
Reeves tries to knock it down to Newcomb. A chance for the Crows. Matt Crouch. Hand pass pinched by Ward. There's a lot to like about him. And he can't quite break clear as Hamill locks him up. 40 metres out from the Hawks' goal. Hawthorn by 26 points. Tossed in the air. Spills down the way of Bruce, can't take it. Schomburg back to Butts, to Duday. Parnell works it back to Murray in the right back pocket. Now where to? Not a lot of options on the wing. Fogarty offers a lead. He's a target there. Wrestles with Blank. It clears him. Scrimshaw runs onto it for the Hawks. Works it back to Jaff.
Jaff, low kick, looking toward half forward. Hamill picked it up, then turned straight into the tackle of Bruce. Wrapped up in a ball up just forward of the wing for the Hawks.
Might be a jumper clash problem for CJ. He's kicked it back to the Crows. I don't know how many times today.
He's had a couple of moments where he's kicked it to really no one anywhere near it as far as Hawthorn are concerned. Newcomb tries to put the step on at the stoppage. O'Meara had it knocked out of his hands. Harry Schonberg stayed with the play. Handball away to Dawson. No free space for him today. Back to Schonberg. Now to Crouch through right half forward. Inside the 50. Thilthorpe comes out and pulls it to his chest. Just inside the 50, 10 in from the boundary, called to play on, now needs to make a decision. Dawson standing alongside him. He pokes it to the pocket. Fogarty's up. Jaff does enough to worry him out of it. It slips through the Adelaide key forward's hands and out for a throw in 35 metres around from goal.
For all his run and dash, he's a good one-on-one defender. Jaff, as he spoils it out of play. A goal for Willie Rioli to close the gap to 18 points Carlton's way. We'll take you there after this game. Second quarter there. Newcomb with a clearance, a barrel down the wing, getting the tape measure out. How long was that? Kajitsky swats it forward, it may work. Jarman Impey trying to run onto it. He gathers the footy, tackled by Hamill, great effort. Got the hand pass to Moore, dodging and weaving around Murray. Kicks towards the teeth of goal. Kajitsky up, it clears butts. A chance for McInnes, can't get there. Bruce picks it up, he shrugs the tackle, turns onto his left. You know how this ends. Luke Bruce snaps the goal. His first of the afternoon. And the Hawks put on a couple in a row to extend their lead to 32 points. 11-7-73 to Adelaide 6-5-41. Jess Webster on the boundary.
Oh, the Hawks fans have come alive in this final quarter. Plenty of fans out of their seats as Bruce just slotted that goal. They've lost 5 in a row, and I think the fans are sensing a victory here this afternoon.
How long do you think the barrel was?
Oh, it's a good every bit of 60, 65, I reckon, Clinchy. Not bad on the run. I thought Jarman Impey was licking his lips when that ball broke inside 50. It was good luck catching me, but just got a cruel bounce, didn't he? But good job to stay on his feet enough to get the handballs back to Dylan Moores. A nice kick to the top of the square. Good contest, but Luke Bruce, as you said, you know how this ends. Once he gets a snip around goals, very, very good at shrugging tackles and finishing.
Continues his run of kicking a goal in each of his appearances this season. And the Hawks skip back out to 32 points ahead. From the restart, Mcavoy got the handball on the up, trying to flick it out toward Ward, coming off a wing. Schonberg there for the Crows. Handball to Duday, ridden into the turf by McInnes, who almost did a headstand as he rolled into the centre circle.
Scorpion.
It was acrobatic. He certainly didn't mean it. Like some sort of dynamic yoga pose, he was rolling through the centre of the ground. Mcavoy a handball to Morrison, who skies it inside the forward 50. Lewis waits down here for the Hawks. Can't find any room. He's had a quiet second half after 5 in the first. Handball to Keys, rips it away, bounces his kick off half back straight to Scrimshaw, who flares it to left half forward.
Dylan Moore takes the mark. He hasn't stopped running all afternoon. Laces out. Mitch Lewis can't take the mark. Murray spoils it down. O'Meara front and centre. Hand pass to Tom Mitchell in game 100 for the Hawks. It just stays in the field of play. It wasn't rushed through. Butts almost made a terrible error, and in the end he's desperately tried to catch Kajitsky. He's given away the free kick with a trip. He overrun the footy, Jordan Butts, as it was seeming certain to go through for a minor score. Mitch Lewis is a little bit worse aware on his feet. You to keep an eye on that, Joel, and I'll watch Jacob Kajitsky try and do his work against the left behind post. Step out, snap with the right boot, and put it through. The Hawks now with 3 on the trot. It's starting to rub a little bit of pain and insult into the Crows fans. They would have felt like they were mounting a charge to start the final term, but it now seems to be heading the other direction. 12-7-79 the Hawks to Adelaide 6-5-41. They played 16 minutes of the final term on ABC Sport.
You go back to that Ned McHenry chance for a shot on goal and that handball to Tex Walker. I think he'd love that moment back now, wouldn't he? So I was just starting to come, and this game's all about momentum, as we know. A bit frenetic that last little bit. It was a beautiful kick from Dylan Moore. Mitch Lewis just couldn't quite get his separation, his jump time. They put the clamps on him, haven't they, in the second half? So
I feel Clinchy's mozzed him, though.
You're going to blame me, are you? Okay.
With 6 other blokes out there for the Hawks.
Who needs teammates when I've got you two?
So each time he's kicked 5, Mitch Lewis, he's done it all in one half of football. Looks like it'll stay that way today. And he pushed the trainers off after he pulled up sore, and he's staying out there. Clearance for Adelaide here. Laird kicks blindly inside the forward 50. Blank goes back with the flight, can't pull it in. Almost got caught between the legs of Granger Brass there in the tackle. He's thrown to the ground by Miller, and will have a ball up right forward pocket for the Crows. 38 points the lead of the Hawks, 18 gone in this final term. Nathan Williamson throws it in the air. Mcavoy wins it down. Blank skies it to the edge of the defensive 50. Lewis is there to charge down Haitley. Knocks it straight up in the air and it's battered across the boundary line. It'll be thrown in. Crouch and Lewis having a few words as well. Be tossed back into play.
21-point lead for the Blues in the second quarter against the West Coast Eagles. We'll take you there at the completion of this game for the second half. Hawthorn by 38 points. Matt Clinch and Joel Peterson calling the action. Jess Webster on the boundary. Mark Murphy and Brett Delidio as Dawson goes long from 50 right to the goal line. And Blake punches it through for a minor score. Almost the ultimate moment for a defender to be right there and make so sweet contact that there was no chance for the forwards. Through for a minor score. Hawthorn by 37.
It's like a volleyball spike. That was a nice bit of contact on it. Velocity off the hand of Blank. Long kick in for the Hawks from Sicily. Bounced the right way for O'Meara. Kajitsky got caught in the tackle by Duday. And the Crows defender will win a free kick. Such a reliable presence back there for Adelaide. Dawson wants it swung his way at right half back. Duday kicks up the line toward half forward instead. Slips straight through the mitts of Fogarty. Granger Barras is out the back for Hawthorn to Hardwick, who's been prolific this afternoon for the Hawks. Chips it barely the 15 to Ward. Good to see him back in Hawks colours after a difficult run through the middle of the season. Chips it to his fellow rookie in McDonald, and they've really opened it up to the outer side here, the Hawks to Nash.
The Irishman's off, he takes a bounce. Was he tackled? No, he broke away from Fogarty. Sends it inside 50. Kajitsky, hand pass to McInnes. In fact, it's from Lewis. He breaks the tackle to Mcavoy on return. Welcome back, big boy. No, misses to the left. Hasn't had the most of the footy this afternoon, just the 7 disposals, but a chance to join the party late. Hawthorn by 38 points.
Adelaide wastes no time bringing it in. Butts has got it in the back pocket. High kick on the right boot, up the City side wing. Massive fist from Sicily, goes 30 in the air, only went 5 laterally. Nice handball keys to Walker, to Laird. Little touch kick, sort of Nathan Cleary style out in front of Ned McHenry, who then kicked it into the boot of Blake Hardwick. It was like a basketball play where you throw it off the player and it goes out of bounds to get the ball back. Nice little heads-up play for Ned McHenry, who'll take it between the wing and half forward on the outer side. Hawks 12-8-80, the Crows 6-6-42. Ticking into time on here in this final term on Grandstand AFL. McHenry high inside the 50. Fogarty brought it down. Laird to Crouch. Terrific smother. Great work, Moore. Dives across the kick from Schonberg. There was a great opportunity for the Crows to score. Dylan Moore, sure there was nothing of it. And a ball up 40 out from the Crows' goal.
Toss in the air, Mcavoy and Thilthorpe. Comes down the way of the Hawks. Somehow squeezing a hand pass out there towards Moore. Can't take it cleanly. Matt Crouch onto it. Hand pass to Haitley. Screws it around his body towards Fogarty and Dawson. Dawson spoils it from behind into the path of Keys. Ran into Ward. Trying to get a hand pass to Schonberg. Bounce into his own teammate Haitley. Can't link up with Smith. Mitch Lewis goes, I'll get involved on halfback. Hand pass to Morrison. Dodges 1 and 2. Great work. Turns and kicks through the middle of the ground. To Ward, to Tom Mitchell. Polly Farmer hand pass to O'Meara. Inside the centre square. Kick smothered by Duday. It ricochets to Murray. He's tackled by McInnes. At the top of the 50 for the Hawks, and the umpire will ball it up. Hawthorn by 38 points.
He's got some tricks, doesn't he, Mitch Lewis? Just picking that ball off the shoelaces, a big fella. It's lovely to see.
Lead's been this margin a couple of times in the game, that second term late. Hasn't got past 38 though. I'd like to see him get a 6th, Lewis. Just to notch the career high. First time getting a bag as Thilthorpe steps away from the contest. Kicks to McHenry straight through his mitts, but he's got enough time and enough space to butter up and get his own football back. Runs through right half forward. Can't get past Sicily. And Sicily's into him. Couple of agitators exchanging barbs at ground level after the tackle from the Hawks defender. One of them's left a mouth guard behind among all that. And James Sicily wins a free kick. And the admiration keeps coming from the Hawks fans.
Good lesson for all young people out there wanting to play a game, to watch the hips when someone goes to sell a bit of candy and not watch the ball.
Ward from half-back, kicks too wide for McDonald. He's over the boundary line, and the free kick to go the way of the Adelaide Crows, and Brodie Smith to take it. Right half back.
What do you reckon he was saying to him, Flinchy? How's my breast milk?
Yeah. I'll show you my tail lights. Brody Smith from half back. Kicks to Blank, who rises on the top of McHenry. Awkwardly hits the turf, but had enough of it to be claimed the mark.
They called Shepherd.
So James Blank has it. He's looked pretty comfortable in the Hawks' back six. Up towards Jarman Empey. Smith over the top, spoils it down to Crouch. Got it to Saligo. Kicks towards Fogarty. Nudged underneath it by Sicily. Gets to the back. McHenry tries to toe poke it away from Jaff. Cannons into Hardwick. Hand pass over his shoulder. Looking for Keys. Sockers it towards Berry. Now past him. Has to try and charge onto it. Cannons into Moore. Schomburg has a go at it. Nash careful not to fall on his back. Crows inside 50 but can't get a hand pass away as Ward gets it. Hand pass to Jaff. Links up. Moore trying to find an avenue out of defence. He feeds it back to Morris. Now to Hardwick and all the way back to Sicily.
Making hard work of it. Sicily now through the traffic to Blank. Now back to Hardwick. Career equal best 31st disposal for Blake Hardwick, and eventually they've found a target in Nash by foot. Probably 15 handballs in about 45 seconds for the Hawks. Moore comes down the line. Kajitsky has presented up to high half forward, or between the wing and half back, I should say. Comes back now to Nash. Hawks by 38. Win and they'll leapfrog the Crows on the table. Nash is indecisive out at half back. Eventually wobbles a kick down the line. Attacking it is Lewis. Can't take it with him. Murray spun straight into a tackle in all kinds of trouble holding the ball. And a free kick will go to the Hawks right next to the AFL logo. And it'll be Dylan Moore who'll take it.
And pass to Morris running past. Drives Hawthorn along inside 50. Reeves can't get there. And O'Brien takes the mark against Bruce. Hand pass to McHenry across half back. Pulls the trigger. Kicks inboard to Rowe, who dropped the mark but regathers. Sells some candy as he kicks along. Miller is out the back. He marks 45 metres out from goal. Can run all the way to the goal line if he wants. Takes the bounce and dribbles it over the goal line. Adelaide's second goal of the final term comes just a tad too late as the Hawks lead is 32 points, 12-8-80 to Adelaide 7-6-48. We've played 25 minutes in the final term on ABC Sport.
Bit of junk time happening at the moment, Murph, isn't there? You can see the way the Hawks are flicking it around in their back line, padding the stats a little bit. But
trying to play a bit of keepings off, aren't they, and just maintain the football.
Yeah, it's hard when you have a little breakdown. And then when it gets hard late, people get out everywhere, as we saw McHenry with his ability to break off half back, hit the easy kick inside, and then Miller is just all by himself. Someone's pressed up the ground to try and defend, but it's ultimately gone back the other way. Waltz in for an easy goal.
Good to see him get an injury-free run at it, Wayne Miller. We know what a talent he is when he can stay fit. Love to see him out there just a touch more often. From the restart, Moore's after it, so too Haitley. Crouch, handball to Haitley. It's Jones, directs his kick. That's nice vision. Found McHenry toward half forward. Now off to Dawson, marauding through the centre of the ground. Low kick to fall forward. Fogarty engaged Granger Barras in the contest and will receive a free kick. Adjudged to have been held.
Yeah, held him by the arm. It's probably making the score line look a little bit more respectable, isn't it? But
well, they put the foot down, haven't they, Hawthorn, this last quarter when they needed to. So they've done more than enough. But now just a couple of junk time goals.
So from point blank range, Darcy Fogarty's got 2 or more goals in 5 of his past 6, with a couple this afternoon. And the consolation prizes keep coming for the Crows, and the goal umpire's lost a flag, trying to signal full points. It went flying out, hence the reaction from the crowd. 8-6-54 Adelaide to Hawthorn 12-8-80, and if they've been stationed up that end of the ground all day at the Crows end, they haven't had a lot of work to do, the goal umpire.
That's D-Rod, is it, down there?
It looks like it.
I think that came from one of the AFLW girls from the Hawks. They're all sitting up there behind the goals, and she's popped it through, thrown it down and hit him in the back of the, back of the arm. How good's that? D-Rod will be pumped. There she goes. And sconned him. No good.
So it has been the best quarter for the Adelaide Crows at 3 goals won. The problem is the Hawks have kicked 3-1 as well. 26-point lead Hawthorn's way in the dying stages here. O'Brien tries to win down the tap, but ricochets off his back. He becomes the tackler and landed right in the back with Haitley of Dylan Moore, who slowly gets to his feet to take the free kick. Still inside the centre circles, kicks to Morrison, who marks between wing and half forward, veers out to the right, sends it long inside 50. Mcavoy underneath it. O'Brien spoils it down. Ricochets out towards Saligo. Got it back from Keys. Hand pass towards McHenry. Shoved off it by Scrimshaw. Cuts through traffic. Hand pass inside the 50. Jones got down low. Beat McDonald to it. Finn McGuinness over the top of him. Umpire gives him the benefit of the doubt. He was making enough intent, Chase Jones, to try and knock it out. The ball up 45 metres out from the Hawthorn goal.
O'Brien reaches across Mcavoy in ruck. Mcavoy does enough to go get a boot to it. Can't clear the contest. Saligo dragged down. Kick dropped into the lap of McHenry between the wing and half-back. Been good in the second half.
Good last quarter.
Yeah, lots of work rate.
The Geelong product. 16 of a few years ago for the Crows. To Jones. And now to Hamill, who's been good today, back into the side. Swings it across the defensive 50 to Murray. Now on to Crouch, who's so much the object of fascination over in Adelaide. He spins the footy in his hands and chips it back to Murray. And Sting's just gone out of it. Both sides taking the air out of the footy here. 26-point lead to the Hawks. 29 minutes gone. Final turn.
So 28 disposals this afternoon. Matt Crouch. Rory led with 40 in a losing cause. Hardwick with 31 and Tom Mitchell with 28. As Jones works it to Jordan Dawson. Out to Rory Laird at right half back.
Hard to do the votes today. Who's got those today, Murph?
All yours, Lids.
Fantastic.
It's working beautifully on air. How would you assess Rory Laird's 41 disposals? Like, how do you try and
getting 40
stack that up?
Is so hard to do.
Yeah.
But they just haven't been that damaging.
Just haven't influenced the contest as much as you would like. Miller kicks up towards Stilthorpe. He got hands to it but couldn't pull in the mark. And it spills out of play. He's had 4 clearances, 7 tackles, 4 inside 50s, Rory Laird, and 3 intercept possessions.
Well, he's had a pretty good game, I would have thought.
I would have thought so too, but I don't think he's best on ground.
He got the 3 votes last time they played. 36 disposals and 2 goals on that occasion. So that's the impact that he can provide. He hasn't done it quite today. Moore rips it away from the contest. Handball to Nash. Back to Moore. Inside 50 to Bruce, who did his work early on Hamill and was good enough to pull it into his chest. 30 out directly in front.
Well, we all know he's such a crafty player, Luke Bruce, but I reckon he just licks his lips once. There's quick ball movement up the field. He just works his opponent back, just knows how to position himself and to create some space for the ball drop.
The eyes got wide, the opportunity presents, and Luke Bruce is so adept at taking it. A couple for the Hawk. And the lead back out to 32 points in the latter stages. 13-8-86 to the Crows. 8-6-54. 31 minutes played here in the final turn.
I'll tell you who I have liked at their game today. We're talking about being damaging. It's Dylan Moore. The injection of him, not just to be across half forward, but then to go into the middle. I think he spent a lot more time in there today. I know he's finished off reasonably well. He's had the 8 touches already for this last quarter with only 30-odd seconds to go. But I think he's had 28, 29, somewhere around there, 8 or 9 inside 50s.
7 tackles as well.
7 tackles, so he's doing it all. It just adds that little bit of spark, and he's willing to take the game on with his feet.
Brett Delidio and Mark Murphy with you in the dying stages here in Perth. Halftime there, a 10-point advantage. Carlton's way after dominating the opening term. Here's a chance for Laird to be more meaningful. Kicks inside 50, onto the head of Walker, can't juggle the mark. And then Miller ran into a dead end. He's thrown to the turf by Scrimshaw. Rowe locks things up with a good tackle. And the last to arrive is Denver, Granger Barras. Hawks by 32 points. Mcavoy palms it down towards Newcomb, over the top of the footy. Tex over the top of him. And the umpire will ball it up.
So just over 18,000 in here this afternoon at Docklands. Newcomb spins out of the traffic to Hardwick. Career best 32 for him this afternoon. Bounces out toward the boundary line.
And the Hawks break their 5-game losing streak with a solid performance over the Crows. They leapfrog them on the ladder. They win by 32.
We're the mighty fighting Hawks. We love our club and we play to win. Riding the box with a grin and hawthorn. Come what may you find us striving. Teamwork is the thing that talks. One for all and all for one. The way we play at hawthorn. We are the mighty fighting Hawks.
It was the first half in which they did all the damage. It was the first half in which Mitch Lewis did all the damage. An equal career best 5 goals for the Hawks spearhead. They all came in the first hour of football as Hawthorn built a match-winning 38-point lead at the main break. The Crows kicked 5 of their 8 after half-time, but the Hawks good enough to hang on. In a week that meant so much, they lost Ray Gunston and the Norm Smith medalist Paul Deere from the Hawthorn family, and they salute with a win today, their 5th of the year.
We're the mighty fighting Hawks. We love our club and we play to win. Riding the box with a grin and Hawthorn. Come what may you find us striving. Teamwork is the thing that talks. One for all and all for one's the way we play at Hawthorn. We are the mighty fighting Hawks.
The Hawks record their 5th win of the season with a 32-point victory over the Crows. And in the battle of the rebuilds, it's a tick towards Sam Mitchell that some of the players in which he's brought in, some from VFL level, some from the draft, are starting to flourish nicely, as opposed to Matthew Nix, who still has a bit of work to do for his young Crows. The thoughts of Brett Delidio and Mark Murphy, your experts on ABC Sport.
Yeah, I think you're right there, Clinchy. I think if you're Sam Mitchell and Hawthorn supporters, you should be very pleased with James Blank and John Newcomb, the most recent additions through the mid-season draft, but also Josh Ward and Connor McDonald. I like what they're adding, but then they're not relying on just their older players continually playing well. It's those younger guys that are driving it and giving them some energy. We speak of Giath and his ability to bounce off half-back. Yeah, I questioned his ball use at times today because he did kick it back to the opposition a little bit, but his willingness to break the game open, and just try and break that tackle.
It's great to watch, isn't
he's as good as any in the comp when he is hitting his targets. James Sicily, for a guy who's 186, to take on the key 6'4", 6'5" backman, but then turn over and he's laser-like with his foot. I think he had probably the most metres gained for the Hawks today, just about, but I think, for the Crows, you're probably looking on the other hand as we just need a little bit more. They looked a bit better in that second half, but the game was just about done. And I think that's going to be the key for Matty Nix and saying, well, boys, when the whips are cracking, we've got to show up, and ultimately they weren't able to do that. And McHenry had a better second half. I think he relies on the game being a little bit more open, albeit, mate, I would not question his toughness. He'll put his head over it, that's for sure, but he worked a lot harder in that second half to be involved. Jimmy Rowe, you'd like to see a little bit more out of him, I think, as a small forward. And then you're just trying to get Malira more involved because he's class when he's got it, but he's just not touching the footy enough. And then it's their keys. You've got to show us a bit more work rate, a bit more intensity to get involved and crash some packs and not be outdone by some 186, 6'2", 6'3" defenders.
Yeah, they're still probably pretty heavily reliant upon their better, more senior players, aren't they? So McHenry was good in that back half. I wouldn't actually mind seeing him just come through the midfield and just get some exposure through there because he is quite fit and actually gets up and down the ground. It's a really hard role to play, that small half-forward role. And he's actually providing a lot of targets in terms of outlets for his team, but I reckon just maybe a little bit of injection of pace through that midfield. They seem to be a little bit one pace through there at the moment.
Well, they need speed, don't they? Because they're not big.
No, they're not big in there. Like you talk about Laird, he's not overly quick, but you just know what you're going to get from him. Matty Crouch came back in today. It'd be interesting to see what happens next week because I think he got dropped off the back of having 27 or 28 touches last time. So
11 contested, 6 tackles, 7 clearances. He was pretty good.
I thought he was one of the better players
without
today,
being damaging,
without being damaging. So it'll be interesting to see what happens from that point of view. But I like what Hawthorn are doing at the moment. Obviously, they've lost their last 5, but I thought today they came out and played a really good, strong brand of football when the whips were cracking. So they just looked a class above Adelaide, didn't they, today? So I think their key pillars are looking pretty strong down the track. They just need to include some more youth throughout their team over the next couple of years. But I like the way in which Sam Mitchell's got them playing. They're playing in a pretty attractive brand of football, and they're good to watch.
We're hoping to head to Perth for the second half. We're going to bring you a Hawks interview if we can, but they've posed for some photos in the middle of Dockland, so that might just delay our plans after a 32-point victory over the Adelaide Crows, 13-8-86 to the Crows, 8-6-54. So if you're a young player and you're trying to pick between the two sides, who would you feel like is more advanced, keeping in mind that probably the Hawks still have a couple of the older guys still part of the brigade?
Yeah, well, I feel I like what Hawthorn's doing currently, just with their ability. You can see the way they're trying to set up the ground. I get a bit lost in what I'm seeing with the Crows. I don't really know whether they're trying to defend, front half, or are they trying to intercept down the back. I feel like the key posts for the Hawks, they've got better solidified players versus there's still a few question marks up front, apart from Tex Walker.
They can't be defending front half, though, the Crows, with the way they're set up, can they?
Oh, well,
their forwards up the ground. It's just not their style.
Well, they're so small, though, because they should be trying to do, particularly like what a Richmond side would do, with just get it in, create a contest, and then swarm. But, let's not be confused with Richmond as well, because they like to intercept off the back end and then slingshot. But I think ultimately they just haven't quite got the class in the back end for mine. Duday's a solid citizen. Smith was a really good rebounding half-back when he had Laird beside him as well. We saw tonight that if you can influence, Jordan Dawson and don't allow him just to play freewheeling, that he can really stifle their ball movement as well, because he's so damaging by foot. But, I think they just need to add a little bit more class. If they can do that in this off-season, then, they'll be thereabouts. But if I'm leaning one way or the other, I'd probably say the Hawks.
Yeah, I think, in answer to your question, I think they're 3 years into a rebuild, aren't they, Adelaide at the moment, and Hawthorn only, initial stages of their tenure underneath Sam Mitchell. So I think in 2 years' time, I think we'll see a side like Hawthorn really start penetrating for finals. I would have thought, in terms of the way in which they've played a few of these top-end teams this year. They've obviously had a bit of a lull over the past month, but that happens when you've got a young side who's still learning a new way of playing football under a new coach. So you tend to get that from time to time, but I think the way in which they've played for majority part of this year, they've caused quite a few headaches to a couple of these top four teams.
There's a couple of little bizarre moments just to touch on before we get the votes for the ABC Football of the Year. Ned McHenry kicked a great goal to start the last quarter, got a 50-metre penalty. Tex Workler skirted around the back trying to get the hand pass.
Yep.
Just the one goal for Tex today, but is that the type of leadership that you might sort of say to him, look, try and encourage the young players to take the moment and finish the work themselves, as opposed to a key position forward trying to get on the scoreboard himself?
Yeah, well, on one hand, you want your senior and your best players to want the ball in their hands, but at the other point, you want to back in your young players when they're in range to have a shot at goal, especially after Ned McHenry was playing a really good second half and was providing a lot of run and injection of enthusiasm. You love a leader to go through your routine, young fella, back yourself in and kick the goal. That's my personal opinion. I think he was certainly within range.
Yeah, I agree. I feel it was more looking after myself versus team in that sense from Tex. And, one goal extra to Tex Walker doesn't, this goal for Ned McHenry could, help create something for the rest of his career versus one extra for Tex. Mate, we know what you can do. I'm same with you, Murph. I think it's shows more leadership for him to go up to him and put his arm around him and say, mate, take your moment. Let's put this through. And because you never know, down the track, that might be a big moment in a final that Ned McHenry needs to knock that through from 40 out.
And then you don't have a young player who's second-guessing themselves put in the same situation.
Exactly right.
And your young players, whenever your senior player demands something, you want to see a response. So he gave it because he's seen Tex Walker come charging for the ball. So you can't blame the young fella for giving off the ball when a senior, ex-skipper calls for the ball.
Just trying to remember the Adelaide player who was cannon into on the outer wing, and James Sicily made contact in the back, and Tex was involved in that, no doubt trying to fly the flag.
That was that play. So James Sicily cannon into McHenry.
Yeah, that was McHenry, yeah.
Okay. So he followed up after that to try and kick the goal.
Gotcha. The other one was the 50-metre penalty in which McHenry kicked his first goal. So Jaff was on the mark. I don't think he moved, but he reached over and made contact with his hand, and the umpire deemed that was a 50-metre penalty, even though he didn't move his feet. Is that really what we want to see?
No, well, the umpire needs to go have a look at that, I think, again, and just understand that he got that wrong, because when you are the man on the mark, as long as your feet don't move, you can wave your arms around and carry on like an idiot as much as you want. And he was just reading the play because McHenry tried to handball the ball over the top to a running player, and he put his arms up to stop him.
And if he didn't play on, the situation doesn't exist. So he must have played on.
Correct. Yeah.
The Hawks winners by 32 points. Let's join them with Jess Webster.
A very warm welcome for the Hawks players as they made their way into the rooms. A very large contingent of family and friends, including the entire inaugural AFLW squad, are in the rooms at the moment to cheer the boys on after what was a great victory in the end over Adelaide. Ben Mcavoy led the side into the rooms. They gathered in the circle, and let's have a listen to them belt out the song.
Hawthorn recording their 5th win of the season, defeating Adelaide by 32 points. Now it's half-time in the West. It's the Blues leading the West Coast Eagles by 10 points. So we're going to take you there in a couple of minutes' time to make sure we're there for all of the second half action. After Carlton were dominant in the first quarter, holding the Eagles goalless. They kicked 5 for themselves, and then the Eagles turned it around, kicking 7 goals to 3 in the second quarter. So the votes in the ABC Football of the Year,
yeah,
you've got the responsibility, Brett.
I do.
Good.
Yeah, it was a tough game because they were pretty even right across the board. The Hawks, I think the standout for the Crows was Rory Laird. I'm never going to undersell 42 touches. You can do that. You deserve a vote. So he's got the 1, 42, 14 contested, 7 tackles, a few clearances in there as well. 2, and I was umming and ahhing about which way to go with this one, but I've gone 2 to a young bloke who I said showed a bit of dash, been injected into the midfield. Young Dylan Moore, 29 touches, 10 contested, 9 inside 50s, which I loved. And how many score involvements? You have 8 score involvements, which is one of the highest rankings for me. I love the score involvements, Murph. The 3, and this guy did most of his work in the first 3.5 quarters. Blake Hardwick, career high for him today, 32 touches, 7 intercept possession, but 7 score involvements as well from a half-back flanker. I thought he won some key battles 1v1 down there, and then used the ball very, very well as well at 84% from his 19 kicks. So 3 to Blake Hardwick, 2 to Dylan Moore, 1 to Rory Laird.
Like it, Lids. I like Blake Hardwick too.
Don't like the key forwards. Did it all in a half, didn't he?
When the game was on the line, and there was there to be one.
Special mention.
Mitch Lewis did probably win it for them, but look, he's honorary. I can't even speak.
He's a special mention.
Special mention.
They're working beautifully on the backbench there, supporting each other. Mark Murphy and Brett Delidio. So we're going to take you to the West, where it's the Blues 8-7-55, leading the West Coast Eagles 7-3-45 to join Clint Wheldon, Ben Cameron, Sharrod Wellingham, Beau McDonald and Bridget Lacey. Here it was the Hawks winners by 32 points in front of 18,833 fans. 13,886 to the Crows, 8,654. And earlier the Bombers with their 5th win of the season, 15-10-100 to the Brisbane Lions, 13-12-90. Thanks everyone, a special cheerio to Corbin Middlemass and Tim Verrill, who are in the health and safety protocols. Good luck to Nick Kyrgios tonight. The action continues with Wimbledon, but let's take you west to the Eagles.
To come as we welcome our listeners.